If everyone could just take their seats. Okay, great. I'd like to bring this workshop of the County Commission together, please, and bring it to order. And without further ado, Barry, how about we take it away?
All right. Good morning, Commissioners. This morning we have a very full agenda, so we'll get Megan's up, ready to go, and we're going to start with an update on our utilities master plan. This is really going to feed into our infrastructure investment program. And so you're going to come back next month and you're going to have a discussion about rates associated with all the different programs that you've seen over the last year. So with that, Megan, take it away.
Yes, thank you. And good morning, Commissioners. Megan Ross, Director of Utilities for Pinellas County. And as Barry mentioned, I'm here today to provide an update on the Utilities Department master plans. The master plans address systems that are critical county assets that provide essential drinking water, wastewater collection, treatment, and reclaimed water services to our residents. Today's presentation includes information about identified upcoming capital improvement projects that will address aging infrastructure while meeting upcoming regulatory requirements. We will also discuss some of the preliminary estimated costs for these improvements that will make our utility systems more sustainable and resilient in the future. Following this presentation, I was also asked to provide some information about the ongoing activities at the Crossbar Allbar Ranch property, where our Tampa Bay water groundwater wells are located. So I'll be doing that at the conclusion of this presentation. So as an overview, this presentation includes the objectives and approach utilized to complete the master plans, which included anticipated growth and capacity needs, sea level rise, resiliency, and asset renewal and replacement needs. Finally, the presentation includes a brief update about the ongoing master planning activities for the wastewater collection system and how all of those components enable the development of a 20-year capital improvement plan outlook. So the master plan's main objectives included identifying and prioritizing capital improvements across a variety of utilities assets. First, our two water reclamation facilities shown on the left, the W.E. Dunn facility located in Palm Harbor and the South Cross Bayou Advanced Water Reclamation Facility located in St. Petersburg off 54th Avenue North. Additionally, one of our master plans will be analyzing the two wastewater collection systems shown in the center picture. These systems include all of the pump stations, force mains, gravity mains, manholes, and other assets that are critical to safely collecting and delivering wastewater to the two water reclamation facilities. And lastly, the water system master plan includes the Keller Drinking Water Treatment Facility located in Tarpon Springs and the county's drinking water distribution system shown on the right. Our water system, in coordination with wholesale water purchases from Tampa Bay Water, is responsible for delivering clean drinking water to approximately 700,000 residents throughout the county. So our master planning approach, just at a very high level, identifies two main components, which are when to build and what to build, to ensure high quality, reliable, and resilient water and wastewater services for the planning horizon. The first component, which is when to build, includes the population growth forecasts, regulatory impacts from new rules and regulations, and the asset life cycle analyses to assess the best timing to upgrade aging infrastructure. The second component, which is what to build, includes our facilities, our distribution and collection system capacity, resilience and sea level rise, operational optimization, and asset renewal and replacement needs. So this slide provides an overview of our growth and our population projections for water and wastewater. If you look at the blue bar graph on the left, this shows our water demand population projection through the year 2045. And as you can see, the population projection seen by the black solid line towards the top predicts a growth of only about 7% in Pinellas County through year 2045. So based on these projections, our water demands are only anticipated to increase slightly by about 3% over this time period. So not significant growth over that time period for water. The graph shown on the right depicts the permitted capacity limits for each of our wastewater treatment facilities, with the solid lines are compared to the projected average flows shown by the bars at each of our two facilities. So the light green bars represent average flows projected for the W.E. Dunn wastewater treatment facility, With the dark green bars, those higher bars are the average flows for the South Cross Bayou facility. It's a much larger facility. So although the population projections do not indicate any capacity concerns at this time, we have plenty of that permitted capacity left. You know, we want to look at any additions to the systems, if we acquire any public or private systems that equal or exceed the current permitted capacity. We may require having to look at expanding the wastewater treatment facilities through capital improvement planning efforts and modifications to the facilities' operating permits. So additional considerations for peak flow and design capacity are also considerations when looking at those expansions. And you can see the dotted line there. That's a 75% of permitted capacity threshold. And historically, the Department of Environmental Protection would look at that in terms of, you know, when to start planning for those improvements when you start reaching that level. So moving on to resiliency, which is a really critical part of our master planning efforts. This is a heat map shown on the right, and it shows potential storm surge scenarios throughout Pinellas County that are susceptible to various levels of hurricanes, with the red areas reflecting the most vulnerable communities. So it shouldn't come as any surprise to us at this point that living in a coastal community, we do face significant challenges when it comes to dealing with severe storm events and our infrastructure. The blue arrows point to our critical water and wastewater facilities throughout our county, starting with the Keller facility that's all the way at the northern part of the county, and then all the way down to the Gulf Beach Booster Station at the south end of the county. This heat map allowed us to overlay our most vulnerable areas of storm surge with respect to the location of our most critical facilities. And this analysis allowed us to better understand the capabilities and the vulnerabilities of our systems. One of the key findings was that our water system overall is quite resilient, and that's due to some of the past improvements that have already been completed. However, there are additional improvements that are being planned, which I will highlight on the next slide. Additionally, we are vigilant in practicing emergency scenarios and response, which involves significant coordination throughout our department with our staff. And lastly, all of our capital projects are screened through a sea level rise planning tool, which enables us to build resiliency into our infrastructure.
So Megan, could I interrupt you right there? If you
Sure.
look back on that slide, please. I'm very worried about the issue with regard to what's going on our beaches right now. Yesterday, I was at the Big C meeting and spoke with several of the mayors afterwards for quite some time about the lack of beach renourishment. And specifically on Reddington Beach, they only have 4 feet left when the tide is high before it comes right up onto that seawall. And my worry is how damaged, is there a possibility that that rising sea right there can infiltrate those water pipes that are now under the ground? All under the ground, right?
Yes, and so those are the kinds of things we're looking at, is that saltwater intrusion, which is underground, as those tides push in, that can be quite corrosive to our metallic pipes. And so we'll talk about that a little bit later, but we are planning as part of this to replace many of those metal pipes with a different material. Some of the more modified new materials that are out there are not corrosive and can withstand the salt water. But some of the older metallic pipes that are still in the ground are being corroded by the salt water in those beach areas. So that is part of the master planning activities to address that.
Sooner rather than later, because it's amazing in just such a short time how it's changed.
And Commissioner,
out
I'm going to
there.
go over in my report later on some of the issues around the beach. I'll be meeting with the same beach mayors this Friday, but I'm going to talk to you not just about beach nourishment, but also about some of the efforts that they're doing really to look at the impact of storm surge having on their drainage systems,
Great.
which is caused daytime flooding. So,
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay.
Continue,
That's
please.
fine. Good question.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Charlie, you have anything? Okay. Thank you.
So getting a little bit deeper into the resiliency topic, in addition to evaluating our systems for storm surge and sea level rise, we're also evaluating facilities for the wind and the electrical resiliency along with the operational redundancy. And some of the key past improvements I'd like to highlight include our upgrades to our Keller water treatment facility, and that was in 2014, which created a Cat 4 rated facility and a new piping configuration, which ensured a better redundancy and reliability of services for our county. Additionally, the Capri Isle water booster station was fully rehabilitated in 2021. This included elevating critical electrical equipment to withstand a 17-foot storm surge. There are also future projects that were identified to improve resiliency, such as the Gulf Beach Booster Station Upgrade Project, which is currently in the design phase. And similar to the Capri Isle Booster Station project, this project will include looking at elevating critical equipment to also withstand those storm surge impacts. So the modeling results from sea level rise and storm surge evaluations suggest that storm surge could impact our South Cross Bayou water reclamation facility after a Cat 3 storm. And the design of any new electrical systems in this facility, we're going to be looking at integrating those design standards to elevate electrical equipment at that facility so that we can minimize impacts. Okay, so moving on to the Dunn facility. The Dunn facility is able to, as far as storm surge, withstand a Cat 4, a storm surge area according to the models, and that's at a much higher elevation. And it's in a little bit of a less vulnerable position with storm surge up there. I want to touch on another significant component that we just talked about related to sea level rise, which is replacing all of our metallic pipes with non-corrosive material to reduce pipe failure due to exposure to salt water. So again, beyond storm surge, we have to look at wind resiliency. This includes building hardening and electrical improvements. A major undertaking will be addressing and installing backup power at all of our wastewater lift stations and hardening critical operational buildings to sustain hurricane wind forces of a Cat 3 storm or higher. So specific facilities have been identified for improvement through wind classification studies, and recommendations have been outlined to fortify these critical facilities during storm events. A Resilient Florida grant fund has been awarded to help fund some of these improvements. And additionally, the Dunn facility is going to be undergoing a significant improvement to existing electrical systems to ensure continuity and reliability of wastewater treatment services up there. So another major consideration for the master plans was, of course, the asset renewal and replacement. And what we did is the criteria shown on the left was used to review all of our assets and identify both the likelihood and consequence of failure over time so that we can proactively plan and address needed improvements prior to failure. Based on the criteria, some of the recommendations included replacing approximately 74 miles of water mains, rehabilitating our current nutrient removal filtration system at South Cross Bayou, and various treatment plant mechanical and equipment upgrades. And part of the master plan also evaluated potential future regulations that could impact the water and wastewater treatment processes and the ability to meet these regulatory requirements. And so one major change I just want to highlight is in regulations is updates to our lead and copper rule through EPA, which requires a lead service line inventory. Also, the revised rule requires implementing a lead and copper testing plan for all schools and daycares. Emerging contaminants and related to future regulations were also included regarding PFAS. I'm sure you've all heard that by now. We are coordinating with Tampa Bay Water and our partner regional utilities to perform PFAS testing in accordance with EPA regulations. Lastly, Senate Bill 64 requires the elimination of surface water discharge by 2032. And as a reminder, I did update the board last April about the timeline and requirements of eliminating that. That's about 9 million gallons per day of highly treated effluent that's currently discharging into Joe's Creek from the South Cross Bayou facility. So I'll be continuing to return to you in the future with those findings and recommendations as we move forward with meeting that requirement. And additionally, we're working to address rules that are being implemented as part of the Clean Waterways Act, including there's a wastewater asset management rule that I believe is currently in the ratification process by the legislature. So next, I want to discuss our current activities involving specifically our wastewater collection system master plan. This was only kicked off last year, so we're really early on in the stages of this. On the left show the 12 tasks that are included as part of the wastewater collection system master plan. And this aims to identify and prioritize capital improvement needs for the system. And again, our main focus here is minimizing, mitigating, eliminating sanitary sewer overflows. So specifically, the inflow and infiltration characterization task includes identifying areas with significantly higher inflow and infiltration into the county sewer collection system and wastewater treatment plants that can cause sanitary sewer overflows. Knowing where these areas are located will drive the recommended improvements, including pipelining, relocation, rehabilitation, and replacement of our infrastructure. And additionally, the asset management task includes addressing the likelihood and consequences of these asset failures. This will allow more proactive prioritization for pipes so that we can replace them before they break, before they reach their end of useful life. Another ongoing initiative as part of this is the septic to sewer program that is aimed at addressing and remediating failing septic tank systems throughout the county. Septic tanks are a challenge and, as you know, need to be addressed. So they can negatively impact water quality, such as our water bodies, such as Lake Tarpon. So overall, the recommendations from the master planning tasks will provide a forecast of the capital improvements to be implemented over the next 20 years. Final recommendations are forthcoming, and the board will be updated at a later date with the results of the wastewater collection system master plan specifically. And so in closing, all of these planning activities have resulted in preliminary costs needed over the 20-year planning horizon as seen here on these graphs. This bar graph shows the estimated capital costs, and what we did is we broke it out into short-term, mid-term, and long-term improvements. And in summary, we can see some significant near-term improvements needed in the collection system. Keeping in mind, longer-term improvements are still being developed as part of the ongoing master plan of that collection system. That's why the light green bar ends at the midterm. We're still at year 6 with that, but the master plan will take that out 20 years. Our wastewater treatment plants are expected to require significant and continual investment throughout the years. And on the water side, we also have some significant near-term improvements. So mainly, these improvements that are shown in blue with the water side are related to the water distribution piping that we talked about. So we're assessing these needs right now and really looking at prioritization and how we can implement these into our CIP. Some of them have been implemented. We're utilizing this data to inform decisions, specifically on our rate study that we're in the middle of right now, and we're looking at presenting that study to you next month. So at this point, this concludes my presentation. I'd like to open the floor to any questions, and again, after that, I'll move on to just a brief update on the Crossbar All-Bar Ranch activities.
Commissioner Flowers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. I really enjoyed, of course, the tour I had of the wastewater treatment site at Cross Bayou. So,
Yeah.
And I'll be trying to get to the others. Question: when were the numbers provided to you related to population growth increase that you used in order to provide us with the data for water usage, anticipated water usage versus population?
Yeah, we had just updated those, I want to say about 3 or 4 months ago.
Okay.
Because like you said, after COVID, we wanted to make sure, we know there was a big influx, and so we looked at, updating those numbers. So that was reflective of the sort of the latest and greatest as of a few months ago.
Thank you. And for this entire scope of service, were you all also looking at including the reclaimed water expansion potentially? I know we've had several conversations.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
gotta have the affluent to be able to provide it, but you gotta also be able to expand the system.
That's a great question. So we didn't cover that in depth today. We do have specifically reclaimed water master plans.
Okay.
And we had updated the board on that separately over the past couple years, just because it's its own project in and of itself. But can certainly provide you another update on those activities. We are doing a lot to, especially in the north system, to increase pressures, to look at augmenting supply. Absolutely, yeah.
And my last question or request is, we supported staff's recommendation to change out the water meter readings for our customers so that we could detect leaks much sooner, get out
Yes.
and correct them. Are we seeing any savings, if you will, as a result of that? Maybe comparing numbers from last year up until the point in time in which we started placing those new meters on person's water.
So we just kicked off that project. That's with Badger Meter, and they are doing a series of pilots right now. So they've installed only a couple hundred meters out there because they're wanting to integrate the software and get everything set up, and they're having to do surveys at all the locations. So that will be fully implemented in 2026 is the approximate timeframe for that. But we have installed some electronic meters in specific areas where we have seen, I think Tierra Verde was one of them, where we've seen it tighten up the system. So we've seen a 4% increase in revenue due to a lower water loss because of those, our meters are, not as, the analog meters were not as accurate. So the new meters are more accurate, which will help to tighten up that water loss in the system. Absolutely, yeah, we're seeing some improvements there. We're hoping the AMI will improve it even more because with that intelligent network, it'll really be able to tell us, where the issues are, so we can address them. Yeah.
Thank you, great. That's what I wanted to hear.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Commissioner Eggers.
Thank you, appreciate it. Speaking of waste collection, when you drop coffee all over the place and start the day that way, so hopefully we've got that under control. So just looking at, this is a really comprehensive presentation today, and just trying to understand a little bit of the projections that you were talking about. Do you see any other cities in the county developing their own water supply system, or is that kind of factored in as probably nobody else will be doing it in your calculation?
So our biggest question mark is really, right now we provide wholesale services to some of the cities, one of them being the city of Clearwater, which they have built out their own, reverse osmosis treatment facilities for that city, but they are still purchasing wholesale water from the county to supplement their system. They're not fully on their own treatment system. That is the biggest, user in terms of if they were to decide to either come onto our system 100% or go off of our system 100%, it's a pretty significant change. So we're trying to work with them to see what their master plan, I think they had just recently completed their own water master plan, so we'll, be talking to them about what their plans are, because that kind of impacts, our purchases from Tampa Bay Water and our ability to do those kinds of things and plan effectively. But that is the biggest shift and change, but I don't see any other systems, like Safety Harbor, for example, is one of the big ones, Pinellas Park. I don't see them having any plans to develop their own water systems. I think, given some of the regulatory requirements we discussed, it's becoming very costly, and a lot of maintenance is required to build and operate and maintain those.
And I'm assuming on the resiliency side, I would assume that we're probably trying to make sure that we understand the cities that do their own and their status of resiliency. Those are people that we might have to supply water to.
Right.
If their systems are vulnerable.
And some of those, the connections are still there. Our system was built out to supply those cities, Tarpon Springs, Oldsmar, Dunedin, but we have not been approached with any plans to, for them to stop doing their own water treatment.
I was thinking more through if they had some intrusions in their system or something. I don't know how vulnerable their plants are, for instance. So
Yes.
we may be called on, but the connections are all still there, and
They are, yep.
we can be called.
Yeah.
On the 74 miles of lineage replacement, how many miles do we have, would you say?
We have about 1,900 miles of water in the water system. Yeah, just under 2,000.
And that's the 74 that we're talking about in the water potable area, right?
Yes, just for water.
Yeah, it seems to be an area that has been a problem in terms of trying to catch up with replacement. But
Yeah.
on the wastewater collection system, the I&I issue that we've got in some of the areas, what's this kind of the status on that project? You know, where we're talking about going into some of the areas where we have the biggest problems
Yeah, so
doing that work.
the Find and Fix project, we've worked on putting together a design criteria package. We're just about ready to advertise that project. And again, we put a lot more front-end work onto that because we wanted to collect all these areas and do it as one major project so that when it does kick off, we can expedite and move a little bit faster through those. So we're ready to advertise in the next couple of weeks here with that project.
Private systems that we have in the county, how many of those do we have? Private or waste collection systems, I think, right?
So there's there's one major actual wastewater treatment facility that, I think there's a second one that's smaller, but the biggest one I know of is the top of the world wastewater. They have their own wastewater treatment plant there. But collection systems, there's numerous private collection systems. There's hundreds. And some of them are small, some of them are larger. And that's where we're in the middle of characterizing those right now as part of that private systems program and policy, where we're going out and we're actually identifying and getting all of those permitted so we can start an inspection program. So,
But all of those systems are part of what we're trying to understand, the issue that we have or may have here in Pinellas County.
absolutely, because if they connect directly to our system, you know, if they have inflow and infiltration, it's just getting dumped into our system. So it all adds up. And we're hoping to tighten up those systems as well.
And then the final question on that side would be on the septic to sewer. How are we doing in that? Where are our major areas that we have the septic still?
So the
what are-
major
what are our
area-
what are our shortcomings down in that area, ours, to provide service for them?
So the biggest challenges with septic to sewer, it's not really technical challenges. You know, we know how to build a sewer main. We know how to build out our systems. It's the private component and the funding component. So we cannot, by ordinance, we can't extend our sewer system with enterprise dollars because that requires a private investment because we're extending to new customers. And that's very costly to extend a system. So the costs are a big factor in all of that, as well as the private, if there's a private road, we can't necessarily get access. Once we do build out the sewer system, then there's the question of getting people to connect to it, and that can be costly, those connection fees. And it can also be there's people that just don't want to connect. They don't want to pay a bill. They like having their.
Explain your grant, though, that you
We did. We
received and the
received-
ARPA money that we're using.
So as a match to the ARPA funds that the county approved, $10 million in ARPA funds, we applied for a wastewater grant through the state, and we were approved for a $10 million match. So that really maximizes, we're going to have $20 million to spend on addressing septic tanks. So we're really looking at the highest priority areas. They're likely going to be around Lake Tarpon in the northern part of the county because we're seeing the pollution piece there due to septic is probably the worst, and it discharges into Tampa Bay. So we're going to be addressing that through using those funds. And then in the future, hopefully there will be more funding and we'll continue to apply for it. So we're finding that in other areas, that's the best way to get people on board, is at least provide either full or partial funding to do that is the best way to get people to connect.
So when you say addressing septic, you're talking about conversion.
Conversion, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then there'll be a lot more conversation down the road on
Absolutely,
on
yeah.
reclaimed.
Yeah.
On reclaimed.
yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Anyone else from the board? Questions, Brian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, Megan. Very great presentation there. So we're talking enterprise funds here?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Megan's entire operation is all enterprise.
Got it. And then just kind of looking at it in blocks of time. So the next 5 years, 1 to 5 years, is going to require the most intensive investment. So $462 million over the next 5. So roughly $92.4 million a year. And then the next 5 years, a little over $60 million a year. And then the 10 years following that, about $24 million. So the next 5 years is the real big chunk of this.
Yes and no, because what's going to happen is that's going to be a rolling set of requirements. So you get sketchier and less, precise as you get further out. And you're going to see how this, which is what it ultimately comes down to in terms of rates and some discussions about how much we invest and when and timing and phasing. And that presentation is going to be next month, correct?
Yes.
And so there's smoothings that we can do, whether we use cash, whether we borrow, And so there's going to be some options that we have. But the whole reason for the master plan is to where we can look out for 20 years and then have that conversation about the best way to approach it.
Yep.
Anyone else on the board? Questions, concerns, thoughts? I have something. I would be remiss, given the conversations I had yesterday, if I didn't address the 7,400 gallons of untreated wastewater that spilled out into John's Pass between Treasure Island and Madeira Beach. And I'm very curious about what is going on there. What have we identified? I know they said it was a shovel left in a manhole, but surely, is there any, how do we deal with that in terms of the infiltration into the bay?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, and I know any sewer overflow spill is very concerning for our residents and businesses, and we take it very seriously. Our crews immediately responded when notified, and were on the scene. They found it to likely be a blockage that was downstream, so they got their Vector truck out and nozzle and basically blew out the line. And then downstream, they found a shovel had been wedged in an 8-inch sewer gravity line, and by using the Vector truck, they were able to push that shovel out into the next manhole downstream and recover it. So it was, it's not every day you find a shovel in a sewer line. Usually, they thought it to be a grease blockage or something of that nature, but it was a shovel. And so, obviously we removed it. And unfortunately, this just takes, a little bit more education about, what goes down the drain and our sewer systems and being a little bit more vigilant there. Our water quality technicians sampled yesterday of the water body and are sampling today. And so they have posted signs there as of yesterday to, just as warning signs. But given the size of the spill and the conditions, we're not, we don't think there's a major public health impact at this time, but we are sampling and we'll provide those results. We're also going to have a 5-day follow-up report that we're submitting to the
I
state.
was just worried about it because of the little kids and families that swim
No.
around in there, even though the current is very rapid.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, just real
David?
quick on that, I'm just trying to put things in perspective. So 7,400 gallons, I'm thinking of like a 10 by 30 by 6 foot pool, like a, and then what is it, 7 gallons per cubic feet or something like that. So a pool, a moderate sized pool, that's the amount that was spilled.
Yes.
I'm trying to translate to how many gallons was it?
7,400.
So that's 7,400 gallons. So it's, again, any spill is unacceptable in understanding it, but it's a small pool.
Exactly.
Pool in somebody's backyard. That's the amount. So as far as spills go, it's a big deal still because trying to understand where it comes from. But this is a small one compared to the one we had not too long ago.
It's a smaller one in comparison.
Small in comparison, yeah.
The one we had down mid South County maybe a few months back.
I think it was a few 100,000,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
300,000 or
Okay.
something like that. Yeah, a lot larger.
Just
Yep.
trying to understand. What's that? A lot of swimming pools in that case. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a slide.
What's that? Yeah. Okay.
And I'm glad you raised it, Commissioners, because the programs that you've put in place, that you've approved over the last several years is driving to exactly that. Now, like Megan said, you can't really predict a shovel in something that's kind of man-made, but we have far larger SSOs that occur simply because of capacity issues and infiltration into our system, and that's what she's working to remove, and that's for all the programs you put in place. We're going to be better, in 5 years than we were, but it's going to take time to put these in place. The concrete pipe that we were talking about, she's got a program to eliminate that, but it's going to take you, 5 years?
It takes time.
Yeah. It's going to take us about 5 years to remove the pipe that caused the large breakage because there's a lot that goes into the engineering to be able to make that change. So they're working, that's the reason for this master plan, is to where we can tighten up the system and not have these things occur or have them occur at far less frequency.
Yeah. Speaking of spills, Megan, the down Ulmerton Road, if I remember, and again, I don't remember exactly where it was, where we have a lot of our over the years, I'm not saying we have them every day, but when we do have the spills, it's part of the problem in our system. And that's an area that we're already working on to expand, or is that?
On Almerton Road and on, well, Seminole Boulevard is a big area. And that's where we have a lot of private systems and mobile home parks feeding into that large Seminole Boulevard gravity pipe. And so we're addressing a lot of that through the mobile home park project where we're upgrading those systems. That is a big area right there. But we're going to be looking at all of the areas because some of the areas, keep in mind, where the SSOs happen, just like with this shovel, the shovel was downstream of the SSO. The shovel was not where the SSO occurred. So a lot of times where the SSO happens is not where the problem is. The problem is upstream, downstream, somewhere else. So that's why these studies are really important. And as Barry mentioned, the proactive criteria that we're using where we can actually predict when pipes are going to fail based if we know the age, the material, maybe some of the condition. We can say, hey, we already know that pipe's going to fail in a certain number of years or is likely to fail. Let's start doing the design work now so we don't wait until we have a failure and then it takes 5 years to replace it. So that's where that predictive and that proactive approach with asset management is coming into play.
The one yesterday was not a failure.
Not a failure. That was a blockage and yeah,
Okay.
that was a blockage.
Thank you.
Okay, so not to take us off topic of where we're going, but since we don't often see you up there, Megan, first of all, I just want to take a moment to thank you for how far we have come with you at the helm. And I remember clearly several years ago where we were and where we are today, and it's just extraordinary. And a big thank you to all your folks that work with you to keep these pipes flowing and bringing us the quality of water that we have in our county. And I would be remiss, since you're standing there, if I didn't say, where are we today with all those lines, the lateral lines between the home and the pipe on the street? Because it was a dire situation several years ago when that first came to our attention.
Yeah, no, thank you. First of all, thank you for that compliment, and our crews really appreciate it. You know, often they're the unsung heroes. They're out in the middle of the night responding, and nobody really pays attention, but they really would appreciate hearing that. With the private lateral program, it's moving along really well. We have multiple rebate requests that have come in for the inspection side, and that it's the last I checked, I think it was over 60. And I'm sure it's grown since then. It's been about a week since I got an update. So we've got multiple people coming in for the rebate requests. We had sent postcards out to all of our sewer customers. So the postcards hit, I think, in mid-January, and that really increased the number of rebate inquiries and requests. So that program's going really well right now. We'll be collecting all that data to measure the performance and the impact of that program. And again, like I mentioned earlier, on the private side, we've begun the work of going out and starting to identify these private systems, and we're already finding some things that are some low-hanging fruit that needs to be addressed there on the private system side. So I think it's going to be very valuable. But I think it's going well. I think we've put together some good flyers, and our website, privatesewer.pinellas.gov, is up. It has all the rebate information on it. We have one-page handouts for customers where it's a really quick 4-step process of what they need to do. And I had sent that out a while ago to you all, but I can resend that to you. It's just a really simple process to be able to do. So we're working through all that.
Thank you. All right, nothing else? Thank you so much, Megan.
Thank you. And quick update on Crossbar. I know I was asked to give an update on the Crossbar All Bar.
I apologize.
If we could pull the slides back up, I had a slide on this with some nice little picture of a scrub jay at the end. But so like I said, just want to provide a quick update on the Crossbar All Bar property, and that includes our current land management, ecological, and forestry activities, and some key highlights. So as you may know, Pinellas County Utilities owns 12,381 acres of property in northern central Pasco County, and this is called the Crossbar All Bar Ranch. This property is currently utilized as a regional well field operated by Tampa Bay Water, a regional water authority. It's comprised of 17 drinking water wells, and as the landowner, Pinellas County Utilities maintains the property to ensure the protection of our water resources and the environment. That involves maintaining 3,500 acres of planted pine trees that provide revenue from timber and pine straw activities designated to offset the costs of managing the property. Additionally, one of the key activities we manage is the ecological and habitat restoration tasks, including various activities. This includes prescribed burns, wetlands monitoring, seasonal, quantitative, and qualitative wildlife surveys of selected species, including the scrub jay, as you see here, the gopher tortoise, and also the burrowing owls, which are also on the slide. The Crossbar Elbar Education Center also supports Pasco County Schools' environmental education program through on-site tours and hands-on learning. Additionally, we facilitate bird and wildlife guided tours to community groups and various other nature groups. So conservation and diversity of land use are integral to the mission of this property, as well as protecting our drinking water supply. So before getting into some of the ongoing activities on the property, I just wanted to highlight a really major achievement that was accomplished within the last 2 years, which was the full environmental recovery of our wetlands on the Crossbar Elbar property. This was the Water Management District designated these wetlands as being recovered. And this accomplishment was achieved through, of course, Pinellas County's longstanding commitment to regional collaboration through Champa Bay Water and effective environmental management of Crossbar, so some of the activities we do here on the property. So the environmental recovery took 25 years to accomplish. And so I think it may have gotten lost in the mix with other things going on, but I really wanted to highlight that and just say that was a really monumental achievement. So other ongoing activities involve the protection of natural habitats and wildlife. Since 2018, we have fully restored 265 acres of Florida scrub jay habitat, and we've returned it to its historical natural settings. We received grant funds from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services to help support that restoration project. Also, approximately 110 acres are being identified to be restored for a potential gopher tortoise habitat and being a recipient for gopher tortoises in that habitat. We have received additional grant funds from the Florida Wildlife Commission for that restoration project, so we're working towards that. Lastly, we're in the process of renewal of our existing ecosystem management contract with the current vendor, the forestry company, for the next 5-year term, which should be starting this year. So those are just a few key updates, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have at this time.
Questions, commissioners? No? I have one question. A couple of years ago, we turned over the management of the Crossbar Elbar to a new rancher family. How are they doing?
So it's going well, and that contract was restructured to have one primary land management firm overseeing it. So as I said, just noting the accomplishments that we've made, things are going fairly well. I know we're going to be evaluating, now that it's been 5 years, we're going to be taking a look at that just to see, are there areas where we can improve? Are there things that we could do better? It's always good to evaluate these contracts every so often. So we'll be going through that process.
So will you be coming back to us during our budget cycle to talk to us more about the cost versus the revenue made off the Crossbar Elbar?
I can, yeah.
I would think that would be very valuable, especially for our new members.
Okay,
All right?
thank you.
Okay. Oh, yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, so right now we have a forestry company that is is kind of managing the whole contract?
Yes, well, they're the prime, and then they have sub vendors that manage the different aspects. The land management, the ecosystem are managed by separate entities.
And
But they're our prime.
they're our prime.
vendor.
And you made a comment at the very beginning that the forestry company obviously sells some of the trees as an offset to management costs?
Yes, and we share in that revenue.
Okay.
We share in that revenue split. And that's how we, as a county, offset some of our costs. So we maintain a long-term revenue expenditure sheet. We work with our budget analysts to do that. Because with forestry, it's cyclical. So you're going to see years where you make revenue when you're harvesting, and you're going to see years where you don't make any revenue because pine trees are still growing. You can only harvest a certain time. So we actually look at a 20-year historical outlook, revenues, expenditures, because you're going to see some years that are it's a net loss, some years it's a net gain. But over 20 years, our goal is to have at least a net zero or net positive gain. So we don't want to have a loss, right? But we also want to balance some of the ecological items on the site, like I mentioned with the scrub jays. You know, we may have to not grow pine trees in a certain area to restore a habitat, and that may be a loss of revenue, but we want to make sure we can balance that with all the other activities going on.
Understand, but the decision,
Commissioner Eggers, if I might interrupt for just one moment, please. That's why I asked Megan to come back during our budget cycle so that we could have a full-throated discussion on the crossbar, L-bar. I think it's important for a refresher and also for our new folks. And really, it wasn't part of our agenda today to dig deep into this, I don't believe.
no, it wasn't, but I did want to make sure I understood what was the primary contractor's money-making ability versus the other aspects of that property that have nothing to do with his primary source of income. And so when you bring that back to us,
Okay.
maybe we can look at different models as far as that general contractor who assumes that role, which is about the contracting of the tree or the farming of the trees, but it's also about all the other things that you mentioned, working with Tampa Bay Water, working on some of these environmental, ecological areas, and they may not be big money makers to them. So I want to make sure I understand that dynamic of how they make money and what their motivation is.
Okay.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you, Megan.
All right, thank you.
Have a great day. All right, and now we are on to number 2, our Parks and Conservation Resources Ordinance update. Is this Barry or Jewel? Oh, Paul, welcome. Hi, how are you?
So Paul's he'll cover this area, and this goes back to the previous conversation we had about, and there's several different components to Chapter 90, and Paul's going to cover that, including the smoking, ban on the beach issue and things like that. So Paul, go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Paul Kazi, Parks and Conservation Resources Director. As Barry mentioned, I'm here this morning to discuss changes to Chapter 90, which is the Parks and Conservation Resources Code. The last time this was updated was in July of 2016, and this update is intended to revise terms of appointments to the Parks and Conservation Resources Advisory Board, address the potential smoking bans that we discussed last September, as well as ensure that our references in the code are current with state statutes and other regulatory agencies. So I provided an attachment with this presentation that included the pertinent parts of the ordinance that we are revising. And so we're going to start with Section 90-1, which is the Parks and Conservation Resources Advisory Board terms. They have been one-year terms. We only meet 4 times a year, so we're proposing that the terms be extended to 2 years to run concurrent with the nominating commissioners' appointments. Next, in our definition section, 90-3, also we talked last year about the whole e-bike thing, so we want to make sure that our definition of bicycles is matches what the state's definition of a bicycle is. So we are including Class 1, 2, and 3 e-bikes as defined in Florida statutes, Chapter 316. And we're also changing, to make sure there's clarity, what the definition is of motorized in our ordinance, where motive power is generated by the burning of gasoline or other fuel. There's been some confusion that an electric motor means motorized, and of course that tends to cause conflicts, especially on the Pinellas Trail. Next, in 90-6, protection of property, facilities, flora, and fauna. Recent events have required us to include climb on, over, and or suspend from any building facilities. Specifically, we've had a group of silk dancers that were suspending off the US 19 overpass for the Pinellas Trail. And there's also various other recreational activities that seem to come up every few years that involve things that we, quite frankly, wouldn't expect. Along with that, we've proposed changing the plant life protection portion of the ordinance. You know, the use of hammocks and things like that, camping hammocks as well as just leisure hammocks, has become very popular in the parks. People like to suspend the hammocks from trees, whether it's in the campground or one of our regional parks. So we've included the definition of what's allowable to match the state park rules, which means that it has to be, the tree has to be a minimum of 12 inches in diameter, and the strap has to be at least 1 inch wide, flat web type strap to protect the tree bark from being damaged. Commissioner Eggers?
Yeah. So this is flora and fauna.
Yes, sir.
And as far as the situation that we had in Dunedin with the gentleman that wanted to has had a bridge connecting his facility to the trail for probably, I don't know, a gazillion years, and that's defined as more than 10. We're not dealing with that.
No,
right
that does not address that.
Okay. I just want to make sure that nothing is, that I'm not aware of is coming into these changes. And the other thing, real quickly, back to the previous page, so you mentioned trail. So when you say that, it kind of opened the door for me to ask this what I considered, I didn't like the move that we were making to reorient the movement on the trail from the way it's been set up for so many years, and people have gotten used to now to making it more like a road, stick to the right, everybody, and then pass to the middle. So how's that going? What feedbacks have you gotten? If you've reached out to the public at all, what kind of feedbacks are you getting on that?
Well, you know, we're dealing with a specific issue in downtown Dunedin, and we've met with the City of Dunedin officials as well as the Sheriff's Office, so we are working on a plan to address that specific area. As far as the directional flow on the trail, the Public Works Department is currently trying to remove some of the confusion by eliminating some of those old markings on the trail that show pedestrians on one side and cyclists on the other. We've actually been promoting keep right except to pass for many years now. It's just that everything hasn't caught up as far as the markings. But as they're doing these intersection improvements, that it's a capital project. I think it's got a 3-year implementation plan through Public Works. Hopefully that will clear that up for a lot of people.
Yeah, well, I do understand that along roads, for instance, where we have the biggest conflict is when you have a big difference in speed. So that when you have a 40-mile-an-hour car and a 10-mile-an-hour bicycle and whatever, you have these different conflict points. And on the trail, that's growing because obviously we don't patrol the trail for speed, but when you start combining people on the same avenue that are walking 3 or 4 miles an hour with people who are going 20 and 30 miles an hour, it just begs, major problems. And you still see, because they have been out there cleaning up, trying to get rid of those markings, you still see people that have been trained for the pedestrians to stay together and the bikers to stay together. So I mean, I really do think that's going to be a major problem. And I know you're going to be on a campaign for the next 3 years to try to get that change, but I think inherent in that is the miles per hour differential, and it's going to be. I mean, people are very comfortable kind of hanging together at the same speed. I mean, I clearly fly down there about 3 miles an hour, and the fast runners like Scott goes about 6 miles an hour, but we can kind of hang together a little bit. But those 20-mile-an-hour bikers is where we have the problem. So I still think it's going to be a problem, and I'll keep bringing it up until,
Sure, and I use the trail, and I recognize what happens when you're in specific areas of the trail. I think for the most part, in the area where I live, bicyclists tend to go right down the middle of the road or the middle of the trail until they see something that would cause them to move over to the side. So a lot of it is education, and a lot of it is just teaching people to be more courteous and more aware of their surroundings.
If only it were that simple.
If only. Section 90-7, activities within county-owned or managed lands. Of course, like I said, this was really the impetus to bring this back with an ordinance change, was the discussion we had based on the changes to the Florida statutes, Chapter 386, Part 2, which is previously the Florida Indoor Clean Air Act, which is now the Florida Clean Air Act, which gave cities and counties the ability to further restrict smoking on public beaches and public parks they own, except they may no longer, or they may no further restrict the smoking of unfiltered cigars. So we've worked with our attorney to come up with a definition that addresses smoking in specific areas, which would include the Florida Botanical Gardens and Heritage Village, which have been no smoking areas because of the concern about potential wildfires. And we also restrict smoking currently from our environmental lands for the same purposes. Threat of a wildfire would be catastrophic. This adds beaches, which we define as the sandy or rocky area along the shoreline, located waterward or seaward of and including the vegetation line and or the dune environment that is owned by the county.
Hey, Paul, quick question on that. So, in any other lighted tobacco product, would that include the unfiltered cigars?
No, the statute does not allow counties or cities to restrict unfiltered cigars.
Do we have to include, just thinking out loud here, maybe it's covered somewhere else, but do we have to include marijuana in this? I mean, this is all related to tobacco, but.
Right, and I don't know what, I think there's maybe a county ordinance that addresses marijuana smoking, Jewel?
I actually thought the same thing to myself when I was reviewing these materials last night. Honestly, I would need to get with my attorney that's worked on this. I'm less familiar than he with the laws that govern these types of things, but I did think the same thing, because anybody with a medical card,
Right.
could have that product, and it does appear to be included in there since it references tobacco.
We will have to bring this back as a public hearing to, to pass the ordinance. So if there are some changes that we need to make or address, I'll work with Cody.
We'll take a look at it and get
Okay.
with Paul and his staff and bring back a recommendation
Okay.
on that.
All right, thanks.
Next, we added a definition to our activities within county-owned or managed lands specific to frying. We added, or any other apparatus which uses or produces hot oil. Of course, the issue with hot oil is no one's going to take that with them when they leave a park shelter. They're either going to dump it on the ground or they're going to dump it into one of our waste cans, which creates a lot of issues for not only our haulers, but also for our staff who have to clean those. Yes, sir.
I'm just asking about the vaping process, the vaping things. Do we have that? I mean, what's the story with that? And I do know that we're having some issues at Florida Healthy Kids. There's a whole issue relating, a campaign relating to that. So, but I'm just wondering. I know the school system is having some issues with kids and vaping, but is that covered here too, or
That's a great
how
question.
restrictive are we going to get?
And there is a section in the bill that allows counties and cities to, it says further restrict vaping. However, I'm not really clear if that's related to the parks and the beaches area, or if it was part of the greater revisions to the Clean Air Act. So we can certainly look at that and bring that back.
Yeah, I'm not advocating one way or another for it. I'm just asking the question because we see that continuing to expand, really in our teenage kids, I guess, but.
Sure, and one of the things, I mean, I would say that, you know, the whole issue behind the smoking as far as the beaches in those areas is also a litter issue. And vaping cartridges are just like any other plastic that is eventually going to disintegrate and work its way into the water. So if that is something that we want to address, certainly we can do that in here to address it, because it is going to cause the same type of pollutant that a cigar tip would.
So, I mean, I think we should, first we have to bring this back in an ordinance so we can make any changes like that, and we'll ask the county attorney to look at both of those issues. Let's go back to the original intent, though, of the ordinance, which is how you got the unfiltered cigars out, was that it's the plastic from the filter is the reason for the ban, okay? And so not really not applying some kind of morality or, you know, issue to what you're doing or anything. It's that it was really a plastics issue. So I didn't even know vaping had cartridges, so I don't know what it is, what they do. But if they do, then that's something we could look at as part of that to go back to the original intent.
And cigarette butts are huge pollution and
Huge.
litter.
Huge.
And I would assume the cartridges are climbing up there as well. I haven't paid that much attention. I haven't done a beach cleanup in a little while, but I would imagine that's going to be a big problem, just like cigarette butts are.
Okay.
People just think it's okay to just flick them wherever they want. So I would look at it just from the litter control on it, not necessarily
Right.
the other on it.
Okay. So we'll look at both of those and bring this back.
Then slight change under fishing. We changed it from fishing is prohibited from beaches in any area designated for bathing or swimming, as opposed to where bathing or swimming is permitted. Of course, that just helps to reduce conflict between fishermen and bathers. We have designated areas that are set out with buoys that are areas that are intended for swimming, and that just kind of clears that up, so we don't have bathers trying to tell fishermen they can't fish in other areas of unsupervised beaches at Fort DeSoto or Sand Key, places like that. Next, bathing and swimming. We want to make sure that people aren't using detergents and things like that in the beaches and the park areas, so we include any freestanding shower towers or similar apparatus. Those are meant to rinse off sand, not take your shower. Again, we added suspending where it deals in the miscellaneous as far as jumping from bridges or catwalks. And we also changed the language slightly to say no person shall possess balloons in any county-owned or managed land except in enclosed buildings, provided, however, that any helium balloons shall be properly secured when bringing balloons in and out of enclosed buildings. And of course, the balloons become attractive to wildlife if they're just left to discard, and then you have things like gopher tortoises and whatnot choking on them.
Hey, Paul?
Yes, sir.
I've got a question, just going back to the fishing. So there's buoys from Sand Key all the way down to Paso Grill. So, I mean, does that mean that no fishing is allowed in any of that area?
No, and of course, this ordinance only pertains to the county parks and environmental lands that we own or manage. So in our parks, when you look at Fort DeSoto Park or Sand Key Park or Fred Howard Park, we have areas where it's designated for swimming versus other areas, like if you're at Fred Howard Park, you've got the causeway, you've got the north and south side of the beach areas where you can still swim, but we don't want people casting lines into that fairly small area where people are allowed to swim.
Okay, thanks.
Paul, on that same line, so we're separating the fishing from the bathers, or the swimmers. On the bridge to Manatee, the Skyway Bridge, do we own the old bridge and the conflicts that are existing between the fishermen and the birds? Is that our deal, or is that FWC?
That's FDEP, that's a state facility.
Okay, so they manage that process. And is there any update on what's going on there?
I know I just got an alert that they're considering new rules for the Skyway fishing piers. I don't know, that was dealing a lot with bird protection, pelicans. I don't know what the final
Thank you.
resolution is yet.
Thanks.
Okay, section 90-9 deals with permits. And included in that is some of our boating regulations. One of the things we've amended, say no fueling of any vessels on any docks or boat ramps. Reason for that, of course, is the risk of a fuel spill, as well as the fact that we have people lined up, and if someone is using their time at the ramp to fuel their vessel, transporting fuel back and forth from their truck causes issues. But the bigger issue is the potential for a spill could be catastrophic. We also are redefining the storage of vessels. For purposes of this section, storage shall mean one of the following: an unattached trailer with or without a boat, an attached trailer with a boat, an oversized vehicle or trailer not intended for the space. For instance, a recreational vehicle, campers, landscape or cargo trailers. Reason for that is that our boat ramps fill up on the weekends, and when we have people who may pay their fee or buy an annual pass and think this is the place where I can now store my boat because I've got a pass, or I can store my trailer here, without a vehicle, it's not allowed. And then the final change that we're proposing is dealing with our citizen support organizations, or what we call our friends groups. It just changes the reporting period from September 5th, between September 5th and September 30th, to between October 1st and October 30th, and that was just an oversight previously. Of course, our fiscal year ends in September, so expecting to be able to get a final report from them on their financials is kind of difficult to do that. That's
Any
all
other
I had on that.
questions on that section?
Any questions or concerns?
So we'll
No.
bring this back in an ordinance form, so we'll have opportunity for more discussion at that time. But we'll tee that up for we'll have to do all the advertising. Do you have a timeline of when we'll bring that back, Paul?
It has to have an advertised public hearing, so I'll get with our attorney to work out that. We have to draw up the advertisement.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much, Paul.
You're welcome.
He's not
Thank
going
you.
anywhere. He's got the next one, too.
Oh,
so.
you're doing the Seminole Recreation status update?
Get a 2-for-1 today.
All right, go for it. Thank you.
Okay, good morning again. Paul Kazi, Parks and Conservation Resources Director, and I also want to recognize Brian Loack, who has been working with me on this project for several years now. And I also want to note that in the audience this morning that we have representatives from the city of Seminole, as well as representatives from the youth sports organizations we've been collaborating with on the unincorporated Seminole Recreation Master Plan. So just to provide some history, in 2019, we completed the unincorporated Seminole Youth Sports Master Plan that looked at facilities that are managed by Cross Bayou, Seminole Junior Warhawks Athletic Association, and SYAA, or Seminole Youth Athletic Association. RS&H and Sports Facility Advisory conducted a market analysis, a needs assessment, and provided concept plans with estimated costs for renovation and expansion of existing facilities. And those plans called for our three organizations to consolidate to meet current and future recreation needs. As proposed in the plan, the improvements were estimated to cost $21 to $25 million for all three facilities. We've got $10 million currently that was approved as part of a ARPA project that will address phase one, $8.75 million programmed in Penny 4 to address phase two, and the remaining funds are not lined up yet, but would need to probably be addressed just from a timing perspective, either in the next penny or some other matter.
And Commissioners, there's more that can be done here with value engineering. Certainly, there's a significant need for improvements to the facilities. However, we've already, for instance, taken out the synthetic turf and things like that. And so they got to do cost effectiveness reviews of what's the most appropriate for the type of use. But so there's more to be done on this, but it just shows you the magnitude of the investment that we're making.
As far as the existing facilities, looking at the slide, on the left we have the Seminole Junior Warhawks area, the middle is the SYAA complex, and the one on the right is the Cross Bayou, what used to be the Cross Bayou Little League. It's now the Cross Bayou Athletic Association license holder. In that current setup, we've got 17 baseball, softball fields among those three complexes and 7 multi-purpose fields. As a result of the master planning that was done, the needs analysis and the needs assessment, the proposed facility inventory as part of these investments would be 12 baseball and softball fields and 12 multi-purpose fields that would be divided amongst the three facilities, with the intention that there's not one facility that is able to accommodate the needs or future needs of every sport organization. So the Greater Seminole Area Recreation District, which is the area that currently has oversight and ownership of the SYAA facility, and it's important to discuss this morning. It was a special act established that district back in 1980. They had the ability to levy an ad valorem tax. That taxing authority ended in 1983. The facility construction was completed in 1993. The property itself was purchased from the school district. The district, by statute, exists until dissolved by law. And in 2020, we met with representatives from the district, and they notified us of their intent to dissolve.
This is only Site 2, so this is the middle facility of the 3.
So currently where we're at, Cross Bayou facility improvements, that is the ARPA project that's identified in phase one. That project is funded and we're in the scope and design phase right now. Of course, as required by ARPA, that project needs to be completed by December of 2026. We expect it will be done before then. The Greater Seminole Recreation District has requested a local bill. It's been filed, I believe, in this legislative session, and if dissolved, the GSRD property, which we call the SYAA facility, would be transferred to the county. It's a caveat that it be maintained for recreational use only, I believe. And we've also worked with the 3 organizations to consolidate the baseball programs. Prior to us getting them all to sit down, we had 2 or 3 different baseball programs all going on at the same time, which makes it difficult to be able to schedule fields or make sure everyone's got what they need. So being under one league banner makes it much easier, and it reduces the actual competition for players among different groups. Cross Bayou, Seminole Junior Warhawks, and SYAA have also agreed to an outline of a nonprofit board to oversee operations and maintenance of all 3 facilities and administer funding if provided by the board through a proposed MSTU. Which is the segue into the proposed establishment of an MSTU.
And Commissioners, I do want to, and I know you all have heard this before, but the 3 organizations coming together and working out those issues is significant. And it took a long time. And so I give them a lot of credit because, you know, they got history. You know, you've got your own little league. You grew up there. You were playing in that. There's a lot of attachment to that. But looking at the greater good, looking at the investment, expanding the field opportunities, and then offering up that whole organization of different types of and places to play, rather than each one operating independently, that took a lot of work. And
Well, but adding to the complexity, Barry, is the fact that all 3 of them have different missions.
correct.
And they were very conflicting. So that is a major accomplishment that has taken decades to get to where you are.
It is, and-
I can't commend you enough. Thank you.
And they're here in the audience, and I just
know.
wanted to call that out because there was a lot of effort that went into that.
The Pinellas County Youth Baseball Organization, is that just comprised of the groups in Seminole, or are there other groups? that are
Yes,
part of that?
the Pinellas County Youth Baseball Association is what was created that took the Cross Bayou Little League charter. It took the Cal Ripken from the Seminole Junior Warhawks Association and combined, as well as SYA, combined them into one baseball organization.
Is the goal of that organization to have other youth baseball organizations be a part of it, or is that set up specifically for Seminole?
It's specifically set up for that area, which is, we refer to as the unincorporated Seminole area. Other groups, like East Lake Youth Sports, they work under different charters. Different baseball organizations have different charters. They might have limitations as to how large of a population. Little League has boundaries that you have to abide by. With the Cal Ripken League, you don't have the boundary restrictions, so it makes it much easier for kids to all play in 1 or 2 different facilities.
But Paul, to Commissioner Latval's point, which I think he's trying to make, one of these teams, and I can't remember, maybe there's 2 of them, which ones do what, but they actually get so good that they compete at national and the Olympics, right? Yeah.
Each of the baseball organizations, I mean, Little League is famous for their Little League World Series that's held every year in Pennsylvania. But each of the baseball organizations have different levels of play, recreational, travel, that type of thing, depending on the abilities, the age groups, those types of things. But yeah, they would be providing not only baseball, but also softball as well, or do provide those activities at all levels.
Commissioner Long, to your point, when these youngsters get older, they would have the opportunity to play for the #1 ranked high school team, and not just the state, but the nation, that happens to reside not in Commissioner Eggers' district, but in District 5 in Clearwater. So that's just something for them to look forward to, and that's Calvary Christian, who's currently ranked #1 in the nation.
Well, don't forget CCC because they rank pretty high up there as well. Just FYI. Sorry, but we have this little, the point is, though, we do have some extraordinary opportunities for our kids. Oh, you guys are terrible. Get back in order here. Never mind. Okay, Paul, please.
So as far as the proposed establishment of MSTU, the different particulars associated with that, first is create the MSTU and authorize an ad valorem tax levy, which includes establishing boundaries for what is the MSTU or the taxing district. The BCC, of course, would be the governing body of the MSTU and would have the ability to contract with a nonprofit or other entity to administer operations and maintenance funds for those facilities. The nonprofit would have a board of directors in discussions with the groups. The proposed board of directors would be appointed, of course, by the Board of County Commissioners, comprised of 7 members, which would have 1 member from the Cross Bayou Athletic Association, 1 member from the Junior Warhawks, 1 member from SYAA, and 4 at-large members who are not affiliated with any of the 3 providers and live within the district. And of course, the reason for that, of course, he would be looking at oversight and making sure that the money is spent how it's supposed to be spent, and that the community is represented. And then, of course, that nonprofit would provide an annual budget to the BCC for approval, and I think you could probably look at how's that work. Well, you would look at to the East Lake Youth Sports Association and how they operate their facility up in North County.
So the at-large within the district, are you talking about the MSTU district?
Correct.
All right, thanks.
So as far as the proposed MSTU boundary, you see here on the map, it's a boundary, we're looked at basically what was the boundary of the Greater Seminole Recreation District, minus those areas that have become incorporated since that time. So on this map, the areas that are yellow are the actual unincorporated areas within the district boundary. That population in yellow is approximately 50,000 people. So different scenarios associated with the establishment of an MSTU could range. This is just examples, but whether you had 1/10 of a mil, 2/10 of a mil, or 1/4 of a mil, which is what they have in the East Lake Youth Sports Association. 1/10 of a mil would raise approximately $357,000 a year, with the annual cost to the average residential property owner at just under $20. 2/10 of a mil would bring in about $715,000, with the annual cost to the property owner averaging about $40 a year. And then the third scenario at 1/4 of a mil would raise $900,000, or about $50 per year to the average homeowner. And currently, the county does provide $100,000 in assistance through our operating budget, general fund budget, and parks. It's split amongst the 3 groups. It's basically there to help offset their operating cost.
And if you look at this, each one of the different sports leagues manages it a little bit different. The more money you have here, then it can lower your cost of entry, so in essence, you don't have to charge as much. This area kind of was developed over time with these independent groups, and so they had to charge higher amounts. That'd be part of what you'd ask this board to do, is to look at what the fair scenario is and how you would do that. And you're gonna have to do that because you have some that are competitive leagues versus entry-level leagues and things like that. So some of those different scenarios, that's the reason you're establishing a board, to be able to make some of those decisions. just like you have in East Lake and Palm Harbor.
Yeah, question real quick.
Hey, hold on, David,
Oh, I'm
because
sorry.
Commissioner
Sorry.
Peters is
Yep.
first, no problem.
So I don't know if I'm jumping ahead on this millage, but in North County where they have this, do they have a cap that they can never exceed, kind of like fire districts have, they can never exceed like 0.25? Or are we just determining what it is and they can never move it?
Right, the way that Eastlake, and Brian, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there isn't a cap, it's just a millage rate based on whatever the appraised value of the property is within that district.
So they can never change their millage, it's just a set number and that's it?
No,
Oh, I'm going to let the expert come up here.
no, it's not true.
Morning.
Morning, Commissioners. Don Kroll from your County Attorney's Office. When the municipal services taxing units were set up for Eastlake and also for the Palm Harbor Community Services Agency, there are rec districts for both of those as well as library districts for both of those. The ordinance creating them set a cap that the board had set. Each year the board sets the millage for each of those. In theory, you could change the millage on those by changing your ordinance, but there is a cap that you have set at the outset.
And are those two identical, Palm Harbor and Eastlake?
I believe they are, yes.
And so are we looking at this one to be identical, so it's equitable across the county?
That's a policy question, so I believe they're 0.25, but I'd have to check on that. And Commissioner Eggers
they're
is nodding his head,
0.25.
so the 0.25 would be the same as the other two, I believe.
Okay, so I don't know why we wouldn't make them all the same, because I don't want to hear someone saying, well, we treated them differently than we treated this one differently, so I think they should be the same, whatever it is that we choose. Don't give the other two one and then tell this one, oh, no, you can't have the same. So I'd be cautious about that. But I think they should be, I think it should all be equitably done the same. If the first two are already the same,
Yeah.
then I would think this one should be the same as well. Unless there's big flaws in those that need to be changed.
Well,
Is that a question or?
Are there big flaws that need to be changed in those
Well,
two?
we're just starting out, and so part of that is determining what those needs are. So, depends on how much money we put into the facilities, as part of this capital improvement plan that you saw earlier. But each year you come back, you do MSTUs for lighting, for fencing, for this, for that, because they're kind of operating on a shoestring budget. So if they have facility or, money coming through a levy, the more they can do. And so I understand what you're saying. We're certainly, from a staff standpoint, supportive, but I think that's also where we would want to work with their board on what their budget would be. So when they come in before you each year, just like Eastlake and Palm Harbor and all the different other, groups that you provide funding for through MSTUs, they could then explain what they want to use that money for. And you wouldn't have to appropriate if you didn't think it was reasonable use. But.
are you finished?
I am, thank you.
Commissioner Eggers,
Yeah, just a couple things real quick.
a couple. I'm just teasing.
They are a little bit, and they were established a little differently. In
They
Palm
were.
Harbor, they voted themselves
Yes.
in that $500,000 that they split between the library and the recreation. And that is a true, complete, full-service recreation. So it's not just the sports that are typically provided. I'm not as familiar with the organizations and all of the different recreational, but if they're, baseball and softball and soccer and some of those sport-related facilities, like they do up in Eastlake, which is so I guess what I'm getting at is I'm not sure that this particular, each one is a little different. So whether, to Commissioner Peters' comment about they should all be the same, I'm not sure if they should or shouldn't. This is a millage rate that's going to be assessed to that unincorporated area that you showed us, right?
Correct.
So,
Yes.
So, if it's just going to be those sports, it may not need as much, and there's no reason to tax people for if they don't need it. If it's going to develop into like if you look at the number of employees that Eastlake Recreation has, it's one. If you
Right.
look at the number of employees that Palm Harbor Recreation have, it's, I don't know how many, 20, 25. It's a different model,
Yeah.
and they provide different services. So I don't know what that is going to be and what they actually need, but I don't want to just make it open-ended, so they have all this money to do, the residents are the ones that are demanding and paying for it. So I think we have to be careful, that's all.
I'd like to say I agree with what Commissioner Eggers just offered up, because, clearly, the needs may be different here with these 3 different organizations. And for my colleagues, if you haven't had your latest sit-down with the folks from, the north part of our county, they have some needs which apparently they say are not being met that need to be addressed. And so that's something we need to think about as well. And it's been a while since we put that in place. And so I think assessing, and I'm assuming that you will in other parts of your slides here as you go forward, assessing the needs that are currently necessary for these 3 facilities, as well as, I don't know what the projections are going forward. I think that would be really critical before we even talk about what that rate would be.
Commissioner, this is the first time we've brought this forward, right? And you'll see under the next slide, we don't, a timeline for implementation of this is the end of, 2023. So we have plenty of time to have those further discussions on the amount. We just wanted to pitch and kind of put on the table for establishing an MSTU and how to manage and govern these facilities that have operated independently for many, many years. So just getting to this point, is huge. We can refine these. I can assure you, we've heard loud and clear from our folks up north in terms of what their needs are, and also remember, there's another side to that story is some of their capital needs were not put in the original penny when we sold it to the voters. And so trying to add things into a penny that is already maxed out is very difficult to do. So it's on our wish list. The question is, will we be able to work in the program? If we can, we will. But it wasn't part of the original plan. And so that's the difference from the penny standpoint.
Yep.
But we are very aware, and we want to work with them, and the requests are very reasonable, but it's a funding issue. Here, we're just beginning to assess what those needs are, and we'll have to work with this new entity that informing and talk about that.
Correct. Commissioner Eggers, did you have more?
Yeah, I don't want to get into semantics, word semantics, but, like the community center in Palm Harbor Recreation was a part of the discussion in previous pennies and committed
Yes.
to this penny in those discussions. So, but there are other things that
Yeah.
that
That's
weren't.
correct. And that is funded.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the-
No, I understand. What I'm saying is some of those things
Yes.
are new, so to speak, and weren't discussed as part of Penny 4.
The ones that were programmed and they were in the penny are moving forward and are funded in the capital plan. Some of the other things that have been identified since then, we're trying to work them in.
And as I try to remind those directors and that board, the commission made a change that said all of their capital facilities up there, the shell, is owned by the county, and it'll be our responsibility to make sure those things are fixed. So they don't have to spend $300,000 on replacing a roof. They may not like when we do it, because they have to do the repair in the interim, but they don't have to spend that kind of money anymore. So we've we've alleviated some of those capital pressures, is what I'm saying. So I think they have to, sometimes, because that's done, they kind of tend, it's like, okay, it's done and forgotten about. But that was a major change by the county that provides a lot of relief, so.
Anybody, Commissioner Ottville, you have anything? You're good. Commissioner Justice?
At the end.
Okay. Commissioner Flowers? Commissioner Scott? Okay. Okay, we're at the end. Commissioner Justice, do you have anything on this piece here?
Yes. A couple of questions. One, and this might be for you or for the rec folks, but the thing that I thought was interesting when we did the master plan money years ago, the initial 300,000, whatever it was, the concern was about the use of the 3 different facilities. And on the map, on the diagram there, one of them has gone from a mix of baseball and open field to all open fields. And that, I just want to make sure, I hear that's got the blessing of the families that are, because that was when I saw that map, that surprised me, quite frankly.
Yes, and that was actually the key to be able to create something that is going to last into the future, is that if Cross Bayou, or let's say SYAA and SJWA weren't able to get along, collaborate in the provision of their activities, then we wouldn't be able to meet all of baseball and soccer's need at the SJWA just for what their own registration was. So this kind of put some specialization in at least the baseball and soccer fields. We still have, football that's being addressed or would be addressed through the additional multi-purpose fields at SYAA. So, yeah, all three groups are on board. We've met with them several times for several years, and we're trying to bring this thing in for a landing.
And then the geographic zone of that the MSTU would be is a pretty sizable piece of property. Are we seeing families from all that entire zone that are participating in the different recreation at the three sites? I'm seeing head nods over there.
Yeah.
It is a little bit different than the East Lake one, a little different than the Palm Harbor as far as the geography.
Yeah.
Sure, and we not only have folks from the unincorporated areas, but from the incorporated areas as well that make up those numbers in each group.
And then the last one is just kind of really big picture, because it seems like a long time ago. It wasn't that long ago that we did the East Lake recreation. And when we talked about that, I think some of the same folks in the audience were there that night saying, we're next. And then we talked about other areas, Feather Sound, Lellman, Tierra Verde, that also have recreation needs. And have we looked at what it would be like to do a countywide MSTU for unincorporated for a rec fee versus piecemealing it and divvying it up?
Bringing nightmares back for me, Commissioner, yes.
I'll take that. The answer is no, we haven't looked at that. But what we did assess, and I asked staff to look at all of our unincorporated areas and make sure, and you've seen this through our ARPA money, make sure that every kid has an opportunity to participate. Make sure every kid has fields available in their community to where we can have rec programs. And we've had to program that differently between High Point and Ridgecrest, and even down into Terra Verde, the types of needs and uses between whether it is a rec program run through a local nonprofit. We're going to have Largo actually managing fields, for us. And so in one area, and the same could occur here. But so we're trying to piecemeal about what makes sense for that particular area. And for instance, down in like Ridgecrest, teaming up with those community partners, they provide real valuable assets to the community and those nonprofits. So it made sense there, and that same model wouldn't work in another place.
Right, and obviously, yeah, and because of the geography, because of the distance and the spacing, obviously the services are going to be, and to Edgar's point, the services at the Palm Harbor Center are very different than what we're talking about in Seminole. I was not looking more as a delivery, but more of a funding mechanism. Would it be easier, and would it potentially be lower if we're going to do this in Seminole, if we are going to do this in Seminole this year? Then are we going to do it in Lellman in 2 years? Are we going to, is Feather Sound, what are their specific needs? Tierra Verde, obviously their needs are a little bit different based on their activity. So it was just, and it's interesting because I'm talking to a group of students, school students this afternoon, and one of the topics they want to talk about is the difference between being an unincorporated county and incorporated city. Yeah. And it's really evolved over time. And 30 years ago, you were an unincorporated because you didn't want all those services and you wanted the lower tax rate. But nowadays, folks want those services, they demand those services and those activities no matter where they live. So anyway, it's just as we're going through this thought process.
I did ask that we make sure that all areas of unincorporated have access to recreation services. That's the reason you're seeing the build out of these parks, Rainieri Phase 2. That's the reason you're seeing, the High Point Park and things that we didn't have in place before. So we're addressing it from a services delivery and opportunity, but they're very different. The other thing we have to remember is Paul doesn't have a parks department.
Right.
I mean, a recreation, division. It's him and one staff member trying to, put some of these things in place. So we don't have an infrastructure to manage fields and things like that. And so we've been trying to be very careful into branching out into areas where we'd have to grow our own staff to be able to manage that.
Yeah, and we several years ago put in and I don't know if we wrote it down as a philosophy or when we're talking about strategic planning, but about people paying for the services they receive kind of individually, not globally. But if we're going to be doing it in 2 years or 3 years or for everybody, it's a conversation maybe we should have.
Okay.
And Commissioner, just to, we used to have a countywide recreation MSTU before the Great Recession, where we provided funding to provide recreation cards for people to participate in municipal activities. We did grants. It was a staff-intensive, very administrative process, and I think one of the things that, as Barry mentioned, we're trying to get the facilities into these unincorporated areas, and I think that kind of brings the groups, the volunteer youth sports groups that can provide the type of programming and expansion of facilities without making it a staff effort necessarily. So,
Are you finished, Joe? Commissioner Eggers?
Yeah, and yeah, so I think it's very specific, and I guess getting back to the point, I don't know that I was clear enough about the distinction between East Lake and Palm Harbor. East Lake is, for the most part, and I don't know if this is completely correct, but I think it's pretty much youth sports. I don't know if they have any adult leagues there or not. I don't think so, but it's youth sports. In Palm Harbor, it's recreation for all ages.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we talk about are our seniors that look for recreational opportunities as well. So you can talk to Erica or any recreation director. The number one demand right now are for pickleball courts, for crying out loud. And so none of this is addressing pickleball, because for the most part, I don't know of young people playing pickleball. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm just saying for the.
I guess I'm not young, so you're right.
But so again, getting back to the millage rate tied to it. So if there's there's seniors in this area that are going to be paying this millage rate also for no services, it's something to think about as we establish that millage rate level. Again, over in East Lake, they have a pool .25 for just youth sports. And in Palm Harbor, they have a .25 for universal recreation. It's different.
Right, and certainly the East Lake example is really
More in line with this.
This would be in line with. They've got a specific district, the fire district boundaries that they use. They're a little smaller in population than the unincorporated Seminole area, but they have quarter mill. They've got fewer facilities, but they've got a very active program, probably a few more people than what we're currently serving in the unincorporated Seminole area.
Yeah, and I like the idea that we're trying to take care of the kids. The comment that Charlie made about like other questions or issues, he was talking specifically related to that, the MSTU and the millage and all of that. I'm really thinking more about access to recreation for different age groups, seniors specifically that have, if you live in unincorporated, again, they're paying those millages.
Yeah.
And so they don't have that access, and it's really, it's.
And you need hard facilities for those types of things, like they have, up in Palm Harbor. We don't have that in East Lake. We certainly won't have that here.
No, and so again, and I know you did that working with the cities some years ago, and it just became a nightmare, but the principle behind it was right, that gave people access to recreation. And so maybe we're smarter today than we were then, that we can do it. And I'm not saying today, this is not what the conversation is about, but I think, again, nutrition, wellness, recreation, we give them parks, we give them trails, we give them, but there's that other component too, so.
I think the real thing we wanted, are we on the right track, is there support for moving forward and establishing, a combined organization and a millage amount, whatever that amount, is. We'll continue to pursue options. We haven't discussed how they would operate, who's going to maintain fields, all those types of things. There's lots of options there, but we wanted to introduce it today, get your feedback. You can think about it, talk to us. I'll be meeting you with you individually, and then we'll bring this back together. We have time, but I think there was a lot just to bring this concept forward today. And so I've seen a few nods. So I think, from what I see is we're on the right track with refinement.
But it's not a lot of time.
You
We've only got 9 months.
Yeah,
No, all right.
we're okay.
Remember, with partners, you get more done.
Yeah, well, I hear you. I also know government moves slow. There's 2 axioms there. Pick which one fits.
I think that was a shot at me.
Yeah, sorry, it does. It never moves as fast as we would like to see it. How's that?
Okay.
Madam Chair, this was the last slide. I think we've pretty much talked through this. Talked about it can be enacted by an ordinance or through a referendum. Discussed the potential proposed millage rate, and Barry's gone over the timeline. If we wanted to have something where we can begin collecting, it would need to be, the ordinance would need to be adopted by the end of this calendar year, which would make it effective in January 2024, and collection would begin in October 2024, fiscal year 2025.
And so thank you for outlining that for us, Paul. My question for you, Barry, based on Commissioner Eggert's sense of urgency, what is the next step to move this forward?
Well, with consensus from the board to move forward on something, we'll start having more detailed conversations as we have been with the partners that have kind of brought this all together. And then we'll be able to refine back some specific recommendations regarding funding levels and things like that.
So can we establish a hypothetical date certain to bring it back for us so that we don't lose track of the
And no,
quote-unquote
we
sense
need to
of
bring it back,
urgency?
this summer, early this summer,
Early this
in
summer.
line with our budget process.
Is that good,
We have
Commissioner?
time to get it in place, but we need to answer some of the questions that you asked today that I don't have good answers for you for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just on that point, you brought the word referendum up, and that would be the following year, and it would be in place for then 2025.
Yeah, we would not recommend that. We would recommend an ordinance.
I understand, but just the folks in Palm Harbor did it by referendum.
Yes.
They voted themselves in, and East Lake Library as well. East Lake Recreation was chosen
board.
by the county commission,
Correct.
put that in place. And it's different, to the point that I brought up earlier about recreation for all versus just youth sports. Sometimes you lose some votes, so.
Well, and I think if we can establish this, now we have parity throughout the most of the county, except in some of our underserved areas. If we wanted to take on a bigger, broader mission, and you wanted to put that before voters or something, then that may be something we could look at down the road. I think getting this in place addresses a long-standing deficiency within our recreation programs, and we can always expand upon that.
Agreed.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Paul. Good job.
you.
I know how much work you put into it, and I'm very grateful. Okay, next we are going to move to our strategic planning update. Barry, do you want to?
Aubrey Phillips is on her way up.
If I could jump in real quickly before you all.
Okay, and so
If
commissioners,
I can just jump in very quickly before you all move on, just to try to get started in advance of agenda review, I have a confidential memo that I want to start passing around so that you all get an opportunity, and if you have questions, you can ask me later. Sorry to interrupt, but I know agenda review is next. I think it's been a long time since you guys have seen some of these. Maybe our newer commissioners haven't. If you can read this, initial that you've seen it. This relates to one of the items on your agenda, and if you have questions, see me afterwards or before Tuesday.
Perfect, duly noted. Thank you so much. Aubrey?
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Chair Long, I'm Aubrey Phillips, for the record, with the Office of Management and Budget, and here to give you an update on our strategic planning work. A recap of our strategic planning session back in January is what we'll start with. So we met January 23rd for your strategic planning workshop that you have each year. We focused on some strategy discussions around key priority topics, talking about the county's workforce, a key priority for any employer, transportation infrastructure, behavioral health and the work we're doing there, as well as housing. As part of those discussions, we captured the ideas, suggestions, and questions that you came up with as part of our parking lot. So our next slide will share with you when some of those items will be coming back to you. So some things were requests for information. Staff have been following up with you to respond to those requests. And then we have a series of future strategy discussions coming up, including today's update on the Utilities Master Plan and Seminole Youth Sports that we just had, In March, Housing and Community Development will be sharing with you an update on housing programs. In April, transportation and substance use. August, the solid waste master plan. And then we're working to get scheduled for professional sports in a joint meeting with Pasco and Hillsborough. So those are some of the things that you brought up in your discussions that we want to make sure we close the loop and know when those things are coming back to you.
So, Aubrey,
Yes, ma'am.
so we don't have any dates, even hypothetically, for the professional sports and the joint meeting with Pasco and Hillsborough? I know that's a you question, Barry.
It is. No, both of those are ongoing. I'm going to actually address a little bit of it at the end, but they're to be determined. But I am working on the joint meeting with Pasco. I've already reached out to my counterparts in both Pasco and Hillsborough County, and they were very open to Benitra kind of facilitating that meeting and with the Tampa Bay partnership. And so I'll be back to you soon. I did propose dates, but those are proposed dates, and so I will
Great.
work on it from there.
Terrific, thank you.
Excellent. So now we'll shift gears to give you an update. So we listened to your discussion on the 23rd, as well as ongoing conversations we've been having amongst staff. And want to give you an update on some recommendations. These are preliminary recommendations on the strategic plan. On this slide, I really wanted to highlight that our current strategic plan is still our current strategic plan and will be so until you adopt this updated plan. The updated plan will apply to FY25 to FY30. So we're getting ahead of the game and making sure that when we go into budget development for FY25, we've got an updated plan that reflects what your desires are. So just to recap for you, the objectives, why are we updating the strategic plan countywide? We want to review and make sure that the mission, vision, values, and goals are still aligned with the board's direction. As part of that process, we also want to get clear on what are the SMART objectives, and that means specific, measurable, action-oriented, results-oriented, and time-bound. So what are the specific ways that we're going to measure success on those goals? So when we say things like ensure public health, safety, and welfare, what does success look like for each of those things? We know that in this economy, in this labor market, there are a lot of dynamic conditions that are impacting the county's work. Being clear about what those outcomes are that we're driving for, make sure that departments can be adaptable and that we're not just doing what we've always done, but we're able to ask the question, is this the right thing to do and to keep doing to get the results we're trying to strive for? We also really want to make sure that we're engaging employees in the community in this process and that there's ownership and buy-in. As county government, we have 24 municipalities in Pinellas County. We have citizens that live in incorporated areas, unincorporated areas. We want to make sure that this plan speaks to that broad scope, but also is clear about what is the county's role and responsibility here. And importantly, we want to make sure that we're clarifying strategic direction. So we know what that guiding light, what those North Stars are that we're aligning our efforts to. And those North Stars are defined by your priorities as our elected officials. So I'm going to ask on this slide not to focus as much on the details, but we wanted to give you kind of the overview and update of the timeline. And I'll highlight some key changes from the details on this slide. The main takeaway I want you to have, though, is this is a continuation of our conversation that we started on January 26th, and it will be a continuing conversation through this fiscal year. So coming up this week, we are beginning fielding of the National Community Survey. Mailers will be going out, and then later this month and into March, there will be an open participation version of that survey. So any county resident who would like, or business who would like to give their perspective on what's important to them in Pinellas County, how they evaluate quality of life factors, can participate in that open participation survey. And that is, we'll be fielding March 23rd through April 6th. In April and May, we'll continue to do additional community engagement, following up on the findings from the survey and making sure that we really understand those most important issues. In June, we'll come back to you, so June 8th, I'll be back in front of you. Our survey vendor will be presenting the results of that national community survey and the open participation survey. That is a nationally benchmarked survey, so we'll not only get an idea of how we're doing as Pinellas County as a community, but also how we compare to other like communities across the nation. And then in June and July, we'll use that engagement and that feedback we're getting to build and refine the plan. We'll come back to you in August for a presentation of the recommended plan. So what you're gonna see in the next few slides is an update on where we're at today, but this will be ongoing and evolving based on your feedback and what we're hearing from the community and employees. So for folks that may be watching at home, I know many of you are familiar with this, but just want to orient everyone to our strategic planning framework. So our vision and mission really define why we exist, the vision being looking forward to a future vision for Pinellas County, and our mission really capturing what we do and why we exist to serve the community. Our values define who we are, and the way we do things here is how I describe it to staff. So that's important to make sure that staff are moving in the same direction. What we intend to deliver is defined by our goals, and you're going to see some of those recommended updated goals in a moment. We definitely want to get your feedback on those. Those SMART objectives I mentioned earlier also help to further clarify what we intend to deliver. What are we trying to move the needle on? What difference are we trying to make? And those key intended outcomes are how we measure success. So we know what yardstick we're using to say, okay, are we getting the results we were expecting, or do we need to do a little different tack? One important point I want to make around these key intended outcomes, and you'll see this as in the next few slides, we've got some examples of some of those outcomes. These are things we're trying to influence as local government. Most of what we're trying to influence, we don't have direct control over, and behavioral health is a really great example, where we're acting as a convener of different organizations across the county that are trying to influence these shared outcomes that are important to the folks who live and work here.
And if I can, Commissioners, what Aubrey's team, especially for our new commissioners, what Aubrey's team does is, as we create our strategic plan, that drives down into programming throughout the departments that are actions that come out of that strategic plan. There are measurable goals down in almost every single program area we have. And it talks about ways of measuring performance and outcomes of those various programs. So you'll get that as part of the budget process. She has it, if you're interested, to be able to see that from last year. But there's a whole document behind the strategic plan that is driven down into detail in all of the various departments.
Absolutely, thanks, excellent point. And so to that point that the county administrator just made, our programs and our projects are really how we drive the results. These are the bread and butter, the work of county government. And those programs are where we capture our ongoing services. Projects include both capital projects and what we call work plan initiatives. So you'll see that in the budget document as well, what's on different departments' work plans. Those could be master planning initiatives, efforts to bring together partners around a plan. So you'll see some illustrative examples there of those in a few slides. So we are not recommending at this time any changes to our vision. It's short, it's sweet, it's easy to remember, and at least for me, I find it pretty inspirational to be the standard of public service in America. Our mission, we are recommending a slight change to the wording there. We want to make sure that our vision and our mission really speak to all of the citizens and businesses of Pinellas County, and that every county resident can see themselves reflected in our vision and our mission.
That was reflective of your comments at the strategic planning session.
Absolutely. And so we do want to, as part of today, get any feedback you have on these recommendations. Yep.
Sorry.
I just have a comment.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No problem. I was what I kind of had more in mind was just sort of a single sort of impactful word like effective or responsible or constitutional or representative or exemplary or something along that. I think that's, to me, that's just something more impactful. It's just my opinion. I don't know what anybody else has any thoughts on that, but it's just my thought.
Kind of a single word being more to the
Right.
point.
So maybe if we can find an option to consider in that.
Yeah.
You're talking about instead of forward thinking?
Right.
The word you liked was what?
Well, just some thoughts, like effective public policy or responsible or constitutional or representative or exemplary or, I don't know, just.
Well,
like to see it-
effective public policy is definitely forward-thinking, so it encapsulates that and maybe other things too. So, I mean, I don't,
I tend to agree with Commissioner Scott, and I'm not an English major, but I went on thesaurus.com, and we're replacing the word progressive, which I totally agree with. But I was surprised that forward thinking is a synonym for progressive, as well as liberal, radical, and revolutionary, which I don't think that's the intent of staff by any means. But I think if we just keep it to one word that is very basic, in 5 years from now, no one can come back and say, oh, well, this word has changed over time and it's now a political word.
How about if we just let staff kind of massage it, look at it, come up with maybe one or two potential, I'm sorry. How about if we just allow staff to massage this, come up with maybe one or no more than two potentials to present to us, since we do have a little time? Because we could go through the thesaurus and look at a number of words that are going to have conservative or liberal or progressive connotations. And I don't want us to get bogged down on that. I don't think any of us are trying to make, at least I know I'm not trying to make this fit into one box. I want this to be inclusive, having gone through exercises. The old way, you put all these words up and then you take, come up with 50 and you take a couple of them and try to squeeze them into a sentence. But I think my suggestion would be to look at encapsulating the entire county, what our services are, and how we look at that. So, because, I don't want us to get bogged down, if possible, into that, because that's.
Understood.
Yeah, bring back some options we get. Thank you.
Would appreciate any feedback. And another thought to just consider, and we'll plant the seed today, is if you look at mission statements of other large corporations and things, they're often, again, like the vision, short and sweet and easy to remember. We've got a lot of values words like courteous baked into our current mission. It could be as simple as the last line there: to meet the needs and concerns of the community today and tomorrow, speaks to what do we do and why we exist. So plant the seed today. We don't need to come to a decision today.
Aubrey,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you for that last piece that you just said. It occurs to me that if all you did was switch that last sentence around and stick it in up there where you've got forward thinking, it absolutely speaks to what we're all talking about, and that is committed to public policy that meets the needs and concerns of the community today and tomorrow. That way you haven't focused on any one word. You're focused on the needs and concerns of our citizens, which is, I think, the reason why we're all here.
Well, we will bring back some suggestions, and certainly we would be happy to leverage your thesaurus skills and any other recommendations you all have on how we can move forward with that.
but I do like,
Me, but the star.
Hold on.
I thought your comment, making it shorter and for all people, and that's what you just said.
Exactly.
Is less than five lines. It's 2 lines maybe, and you can it's like it's elevator speech almost. It's not. It's something that we can all walk with very comfortably, and I think that one should be looked at as one of the examples.
See
So
that, Commissioner Latvaler? I am an English major. Thank you. Okay, remember that, everybody. He'll never say it again.
So again, this is a first step. We're going to keep coming back to you and having this conversation, and we've got more content to get through and lunch between now and that. So, all right, so some recommended values, and these may look familiar. They do incorporate some of our existing values, but also some feedback that we've heard from directors and staff around where there are opportunities to strengthen our values and really make sure that we're clear about who we are and how we do things here. Again, welcome any feedback, and you're welcome to email that to me afterwards, because I know this is something you kind of probably need to spend a little bit of time with. So here are some recommendations for updates to your goals. There seems to be we like the fact that we've got 5 goals. It's simple, it's easy to remember, but we want to slow down a little bit here and make sure that you have a chance to see some examples on the following slides of illustrative programs and projects and key intended outcomes. How we came up with these recommended goals is we did some analysis both from what we heard from you and our existing programs and services to group like items and see where there were some opportunities to clarify the work of the county and improve the strength of these goals.
And specifically, you had asked to look at an infrastructure pillar, and so this is trying to align those things together.
Absolutely. And your mic is off.
Necessarily be out of here by noon. So I just wanted to make sure that we have the opportunity to have some discussion. On the recommended values page, which is the previous page, if we, on these values, and I go down through them and I sit there and I'm trying to think, like trust, for instance, that's a recommended value. Well, to me, the verbiage there, which says accountability, accountable, to me, that's a value. That accountability is the issue, not trust. I mean, I don't know how that, trust to me is, it's a weird when you say, what are your values? It's trust. Well, accountability speaks specifically to that, and I think that's how we should look at these values. So service is a value. Well, what kind of service? I mean, is it good service, bad service? Is it, so I just think when we talk about these values, I think if we can be just a little bit more directed in those bolded words, I think it's helpful. I mean,
And Commissioner, we kind of they pulled this out of getting feedback from directors. Now, if you have that same type of feedback and comment,
my understanding at the beginning was that this is kind of a segue from our first get-together as a group. We're talking today about some additional feedback, and I don't know if other commissioners want to weigh in today or not. I don't want to necessarily all of us weigh in individually. It's a good time to talk,
okay,
like we did.
I'm fine with that. We just kind of took everybody's ideas and they put them down. If you have other ideas, we can certainly incorporate. You can discuss it and decide, or you can just provide us feedback and we'll bring you back.
I'm not trying to wordsmith it. I'm just trying to say that I think these words can be a little bit better phrased, and they can be, like I just said, trust. What does that mean? I mean, what is it? Of course, trust. But, I think accountability is one of the things that we really pride ourselves in. We have, Ken Burke's group, for instance, that's just set up for that very purpose, that helps keep us accountable to our residents. So I think accountability is a big one. And I'm not sure recommended values is people. I don't know what that means. The things that you say afterwards kind of defines it, but can we pick a word that speaks to that phrase? I'd just like to maybe get some of your thoughts on that. So we don't get into it today. We don't have time, I guess. So maybe you could think along those lines a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm happy to hear any initial thoughts or feedback you have, and those are excellent ones to share. You're also welcome to follow up with me afterwards to share additional feedback. Today is the kind of initial draft of things, and these will be refined not only based on your feedback, but importantly for our values. We want to make sure we're talking to frontline supervisors about, are these words helpful for you when you're communicating to staff what our values are and what's important to us as an organization?
For instance, under people, what you defined there was flexibility to me. So that's a value that we pride ourselves in being a flexible organization, that we pride ourselves in being accountable to the people. Those are values to me, and you say them right after the word, but the word itself doesn't
It's not resonating with you.
Doesn't resonate with
hear
me,
you.
but anyway. And accountability is at the bottom, but trust is what you're talking about there. So anyway, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to wordsmith for a minute?
Yeah, just a
Commissioner
quick comment
Scott?
on that. And I really didn't think about that till Commissioner Eggers brought it up, but the trust talks about accountable, but then we have accountability right below that. But just looking up the definition of trust is a firm belief in the reliability, truthability, or strength of someone or something. So I think that might be a good wordsmith. Just a
Thank
comment.
you.
Anybody else? Anyone? Okay, Aubrey, please continue.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to spend a little bit more time, and this is definitely where we'd like to get your feedback about, are these the right goal areas? Is the language okay here, particularly for the high-level goals, so what you're going to see at the top of each slide. And then want you to start thinking, and we don't have to land this plane today, but start thinking about what outcomes will define success. So we've provided some examples, illustrative examples of those key intended outcomes, example programs and projects to give you a sense of what we had in mind when we say something like resilient infrastructure and environment. We're talking about streets and bridges, but also water and sewer and some of the water quality issues you heard Megan speak to you about earlier this morning.
Commissioner Reddy.
Safety, I mean, certainly, we're dealing with a confidential memo right now as we go, that goes around this table, and what we created a few years ago was to bring our sidewalk program up to speed, right? And so because of the commitment of the commission, I guess it was 2 or 3 years ago, we're now almost caught up with all of the backlog of sidewalks that create hazards. And that's a great thing, and we're continue to work that. So I think that's our intended outcome. It's not going to go away, that kind of issue, so.
And what you'll see on each one of these, and we could drill down into these all day long, and but you, for instance, Jill could pull up on her computer and she'd show you exactly where they're at, on that sidewalk program. And it'll change as they update those throughout the year. And so each measure, or each goal area, has an outcome, and so that's how they track their progress.
And that's a really great example where it's looking at, we've got a few key outcomes that something like sidewalk investments are going to address, making sure that our infrastructure is in a state of good repair, that we're reducing fatalities and injuries associated with pedestrians interacting with road traffic. And when we talk about infrastructure investments, looking at the congestion index and how travel time is working. Does the high-level resilient infrastructure and environment resonate with folks? Are we kind of on the right track there, to use Barry's term? So next up is healthy and safe communities. Here, key programs include our homeless prevention and self-sufficiency, things like building permits that make sure that our built environment is healthy and safe for the community members. And investments like our elevation of the behavioral health system that Human Services have been leading all help to contribute to our county health rankings you see listed there as a key intended outcome. That's a measure that looks at a variety of indicators, including things like drug overdose deaths, insurance rates and things like that, that assesses the overall health of a county.
Access to recreation, I think, is what we just talked about that today. And nutrition. One of the things that we I think we were asked for by our residents during the pandemic to focus more on, we didn't do it as much as they would like, was on the wellness of our county and the programs that we have on nutrition, the programs we have on exercise, the programs we have on all of those aspects that relate to, and recreation being a big one. So I don't know if key intended outcomes is recreation opportunities for youth, but certainly it's a measurable outcome. How are we doing?
Absolutely.
Are we at 50%, 75%, those kind of things. So.
Terrific.
Commissioner Peters?
So I know you can't stick everything in there, and so it's really broad, and we know what fits in there, so I get that. But I'm not sure why you put building permits in the health and safety community. I mean, I get we need our buildings to be safe and according to regulation, but I'm not sure if that's where it fits.
Totally agree.
Good air quality days, okay, I get how that fits. Emergency shelters, I get how that fits. The rest of it, it really fits. Regional 911, I think that fits. I'm just not sure how building permits fit. And do building permits maybe fit in resiliency more than, I don't know. I just don't know that building permits fit in there.
Yeah.
It's just my thought.
That's a good point about fitting under the resiliency. Maybe, Aubrey, you could explain what your thinking was by putting it in here?
Absolutely, and you hit on an excellent point, which is many of our programs and projects are moving the needle on more than one goal area, and building permitting is an excellent example. Building permit absolutely has an economic impact. It absolutely has an impact on the resiliency of our infrastructure. I put it here because when I talk with building staff and I look at building codes, from my perspective, why are we in that business as local government? And it's in part to make sure that our built environment is safe. I will freely admit that when putting together this slide deck, it was right on the heels of the earthquakes in Turkey and Syria. So the role of building permitting and making sure that our homes and our communities are safe was top of mind. And that may have influenced where I ended up placing this one in particular, but it's an excellent point and an excellent discussion topic.
Thank you. Anybody? Anybody else? Scott?
Thank you,
Commissioner
Madam
Scott?
Chair. Just tying into what Commissioner Eggers was saying about recreational opportunities, to me, that really kind of goes into like a quality of life type of issue. But on the previous slide, there's acres of parkland per 1,000 residents, which I think kind of speaks to that a little bit, but maybe I can expand it on a bit.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get the question.
Just really more of a comment, but in the previous slide, there's acres of parkland per 1,000 residents. So that kind of ties into what Commissioner Eggers was saying, which for me is kind of a quality of life issue, recreational opportunity. So
Gotcha.
I don't know if that's the appropriate slide for that to be on, or if it should be on somewhere else, but I think, kind of quality, weaving quality of life into here.
Thought through that a lot because quality of life came up in a lot of areas. And at least where I landed in pulling together the slide deck was quality of life kind of threads through a lot of these goal areas, where we actually land that one, but excellent point, and we'll take that under consideration as we bring things back to you.
Yeah, I can certainly see your comments about, putting it where you have it. I also have made the comment several times that, we can talk about economic development in this county, but if we don't do building department well, then economic development is just talk. And I think so tying it in that group also makes some sense because it's so closely aligned with our businesses being able to expand, attracting businesses that come here and says, now your building department is where it needs to be. Check. I don't have to worry about being inundated with too much stuff. I can get projects through. To me, it fits in that economic development, but I guess you can make an argument it fits in.
But we will have measures of how we measure them,
Yeah.
regardless of where we put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because wherever building permits end up, you do want to make sure, as Barry was mentioning earlier, that all of our programs are operated efficiently and effectively, and that we're being mindful of that. So you brought up economic development, and good lead into the next slide here and the next goal area, which is economic opportunity and prosperity. Here you can see some of those key intended outcomes, example programs, and projects. So is this resonating with folks on the right track? Some nods? All right. And then these last two goals are really where there's some key differences from our current plan. So our current plan, we've got a goal that's focused on our county workforce and one that's focused on service delivery. And particularly with our focus on developing a public engagement plan, we felt like there was an opportunity here and our emphasis on partnership to really bring those together and think about how we engage people and partners to get the work of the county done, because local government cannot do it all, and it's only through those relationships with our staff, with the community, with partners, that we can really move the needle. So you see this is where things like workforce relations comes up, but also our unincorporated county liaisons and how we build relationships with those communities that we support. Any questions or comments on this one? And then finally, obviously service is still a key focus for us, but wanted to emphasize the idea of smart service delivery, that we're thinking proactively about, are we delivering services efficiently and effectively to the customer to meet the need? So here, is where the Office of Management and Budget comes up, the Office of Asset Management. We're not directly delivering services to the public, but we are making sure that as county government, we're operating efficiently and that we're being mindful and proactive about monitoring how we're performing and making improvements where those are needed. And then I'm going to go to the next slide, but with the caveat here that the open participation community survey will in fact open on March 23rd and run through April 6th. And I'll be following up with you to send out some information about that so that if you would like to include it in newsletters or communications you all put out, you'll have that available to you. Any final questions for me?
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your hard work putting all our thoughts in one place. I know that's not easy.
They're all good thoughts. Thank you so much.
Right, and so now we are on to our agenda briefing.
Okay, Commissioners, before I get on the agenda, reminder that on February, next Tuesday, beginning at 9 o'clock, we'll have refreshments available at 8:30. We have the joint BCC-TDC meeting, and the agenda's out, so you can read that at your leisure.
Speaking of that, Barry, if you don't mind me asking, I noted that the Dali is on there.
Correct.
Are they making a specific presentation?
No, the Dali is not, but it's a discussion with you because you're going to be talking about your capital budget, you know, and so we're just putting all of those items on there, and so you can have a fruitful discussion with the TDC regarding the items that are before you.
So are we talking about all the items on the capital budget request that day?
Well, yeah, and it's actually in the packet. It's a chart that talks about the
Haven't gone through the whole
upcoming.
thing
Many
yet.
of those you can't answer. You know, some of them we know is coming, but we don't have a request. And so, but it's the whole idea about how to, you're having two separate conversations. We're having the conversations here. The TDs have, this is an opportunity for you just to have an open discussion regarding those different items.
Okay,
Okay?
just wanted to clarify.
Okay, on the agenda, and I do have a couple of things, because I know some people have to leave, but I'll just go down through the agenda quickly. Item number 10 is the first action item. This is an agreement with Aptum Environmental Infrastructure for Coastal Management Environmental Consulting. This contract's on an as-needed basis, and they provided different types of specialized services in our environmental management program. And this replaces an existing contract. Item number 11 is ranking of firms, 6 highest ranked firms with disaster debris management, collection, and removal. This is done in conjunction with cooperative cities, and they're listed within your packet. This is a 5-year agreement. Item number 12 is ranking of firms with Cumbie and Fair, whatever it is, for engineering services for the Pinellas Trail South Gap Phase 1 from Almaton Roads to Haynes Bayshore Drive, $1.5 million. Item number 13 is award of bid to Pool and Kent Companies for industrial waste treatment, clarifier system Phase 2. This is at solid waste, not at our utilities. So the projects construct a 60-foot diameter clarifier, 30-foot diameter thickening, $8.4 million, which is below the estimate, which is good to pull that out since we don't see that very often these days. Item 14 is Housing Finance Authority, their annual report. The regular agenda, item 15 is award acceptance and agreements. This is for the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Grant Program. It's a countywide program that's shared between and with the cities. And so in here, it provides a breakdown of the funding as they have made a recommendation for that through this advisory committee.
Under item number 16, this is the item that was continued from your last meeting relating to some litigation that we have with Pepper Contracting Services and an arbitration award. We are still awaiting the decision on the arbitration from the arbitrator. So this is a little bit in limbo as to what we will be doing with it prior to Tuesday. But if we do get that award, we are going to be getting through to talk with each one of you because we have time limitations within which we have to act. And the board is not going to meet again for another month after Tuesday's meeting, and that is beyond the time that we need to act. So we'll have to be a little bit flexible with this one, but we'll have more information on this to come.
Or are you going to, if we don't have that, are you going to recommend a delegation?
We will, and what we need to do is come up with how we'll frame that, whether we have a money range or we're not exactly sure. But Barry's right. If we don't have the delegation, or I'm sorry, if we don't have the arbitration determination in this lawsuit, there are 2 pending with Pepper right now. But in this lawsuit, if we don't have it in advance of your Tuesday meeting so that you as a body can take action on it, we are going to need to frame a delegation for you all to grant to the county administrator. And we're probably going to want to try to come up with a range or just some parameters for what that might look like. But we're
And the reason this is important is you have 20 days to act.
Yeah.
And so if, for instance, they wait until the, later in the month of March, well, then I can just wait and bring it back to you because you'll be meeting within that 20 days. But if we get the notice just after your meeting, well, then you won't meet, your next meeting would be outside that 20-day window. And so it would be a limited delegation only if we have to act inside that time period. And we would come back to you and talk to you individually before we would act on it.
And if we do get it tomorrow or even Monday, we will try to get through to each one of you to explain what it is and give you our recommendation in advance of the meeting. But we're going to need to be a little bit flexible with this one, just given some of the timing issues. On items number 17 and 18, these are 2 individual cases that we're seeking authority to file suit on a code enforcement matter. I mentioned them both together. There's an area of the county where a number of residents have filled in a swale, which is causing some drainage problems. So you've seen, I think, already one of these lawsuits. These are 2 more related to the same area. Under item number 19, this is kind of a global ratification that we're seeking the board to approve. It related to the Florida plan, which is of course related to the opioid settlements. Early on in this process, when you all took action to get things started with the lawsuit, we included some provisions where the county administrator would have delegated authority to sign some documents that again had time constraints related to them, which really, we didn't get a lot of control over these lawsuits. A lot of it went through the state, so we were having the county administrator sign these documents. This is really a global ratification that we're bringing back to you of all those things that the county administrator has signed. So that's really what we're seeking, is ratification of those documents. I've talked with a couple of you just in recent one-on-one meetings that I've had and mentioned that we're putting together, the county attorney's office in conjunction with Barry's staff, kind of a comprehensive memo about opioids. This is what the issue was. This is where we started. These are all the things that we've done over the last couple of years because we're starting to get some money to flow in. So just kind of revisiting the issue, giving a nice big summary. I know it'll be helpful for our 2 new commissioners. I think it'll be helpful for all of us. I think it'll be helpful for me. So hopefully we'll be getting that out to you all in the next couple of days. Under item number 20, that is the agenda item that I sent around to each of you in the confidential memo that you were able to take a look at. I would invite you to see me if you have any questions on that issue. I also, under 21, I'm going to be asking you to take action on a conflict waiver, which I think might have made its way, copies to you around.
It should be back to you by now.
Well, I provided a copy to each of you because I am going to ask you to take action on this on Tuesday. This relates to a lawsuit that was filed against the county that relates to alleged damage that was caused by a county contractor who has, pursuant to the terms of our contract, agreed to pick up the defense of the county in this lawsuit and indemnify us. This conflict waiver was presented to us by the law firm secured by the insurance company, and because they will be representing both the county and the contractor, at least initially, unless and until we may identify a conflict, they've asked us to sign a conflict waiver so that they can represent both, and we are recommending that the board approve that. And that's what I have. This is appropriate. We expect our contractors to pick up our defense. This is a good sign that they agreed to do it right away, and it is not uncommon for both parties to be defended together unless there comes a time in the litigation where we need to separate. And if that happens, we will certainly inform you.
Who's suing us?
It is a nearby resident who has claimed damage as a result of a drilling vibration caused on a bridge project.
Caused on a what?
A bridge project.
A bridge.
Drilling vibration
By the contractor.
to their home?
Yes,
Okay.
correct, correct.
So we'll talk about that.
We can, certainly.
Item
Barry?
21, I will have a county administrator's report at the meeting. Item 22 is our federal legislative program. The items outlined shouldn't be a surprise. They're in your packet. We have Brian here if you have any questions. Item 23 is appointment by Commissioner Lavala for Feather Sound. 24.
Barry?
Oh, sorry.
I'm likely to, my representative is leaving in June. They're moving out of Feather Sound, and was aware that one of the board members was going to be coming off, so he made me aware of that. So I've met with the other person, so I may be bringing one to that meeting as well for a replacement of mine,
Yeah.
my representative.
And Kim, I think, just sent that around.
Is that?
I think Kim just sent that
Oh,
around
okay.
through email
All right,
for
good.
everyone. And you have a copy of that resume. 24 is appointments to the Suncoast Health Council. 25, staff is, are we removing that? Jill, you don't know? I think we're going to remove that. That's for the Greater Seminole Recreation Area. And since we're going to postpone it because I don't think we need it. And we'll see what the outcome of the bill is. So bill passes, no need to make the appointment. So we'll just postpone that. Item 26, appointment to local planning agency, commissioners of the whole. 27 is Pinellas County Health Facilities Authority, appoint 4 appointments. 28, Pinellas County Housing Authority, approve 1 appointment. And then commissioners, new business. We have a couple of public hearings. The first is a countywide map amendment from public, semi-public to residential, 4.29 acres. This is it's part of the East Lake Tarpon Community Overlay, and this is on the Cypress Run Golf Course. My understanding is there is no opposition, and both your recommending panels unanimously supported it. And finally, the last 2 items is related to industrial development bonds, $10 million, and it's outlined in your packet. It's a manufacturing facility. So the first piece is you acting as the Board of Commissioners, or as the Industrial Development Authority, and the second is the concurrent action, you as the Board of County Commissioners. And that's all I have.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I go back to item 15? Does anybody know why Directions wasn't able to, or why they're asking for an extension to sign the contract? I mean, they wrote the grant. They got funding of 57 and some change for telehealth. What's the delay?
She just asked a question regarding burn
I'm sorry, you
or
couldn't hear me.
directions for a living.
Why the delay for Directions to sign the contract? In the backup material that we have, it says that they've asked for time to sign the contract. What's the delay?
Lourdes Benedict, Assistant County Administrator. I know they've had some concerns with turnover with their CFO, so I believe that may have delayed it.
Well, then that concerns me, because if they have concerns with that, then they may have concerns with financial reporting. That's just important to me, but anyway. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
So I have a few other items. I can either go over these today or Tuesday. I just want to make you aware of a couple of things. So for instance, I know the beach mayors have been talking individually to many of you. I'm meeting with them on Friday also. And it's the same concerns. The big issue is whether or not we're going to be able to change the federal response for the Corps of Engineers regarding beach nourishment. That's ongoing. Commissioner Long is going to represent us with Harry, Brian, and Mayor Kennedy at the White House to talk to their head of intergovernmental affairs. It's another effort to try to resolve that interpretation issue regarding how they require easements.
And when you talk to them on Friday, Barry, they're also going to want to talk about the mitigation efforts that they want to be able to do. And they've got some very firm and strong ideas about what that is.
Unfortunately, Kelly's out of town, so she will
I
not.
know, I
She will
told
not.
them.
She had a family emergency, and she will not be able to join me. Some of those I'm just not going to be able to address. Whether you can put, groins out on the beach and things like that, that's not something we can ask. That's a Corps of Engineers. It's a permitting issue, and so those are very, very technical. That's not a Pinellas County decision. And so I can address it to a certain extent. I think the main thing is that we have open communication. If we want to study things, let's look at them. Let's be open to ideas. But there's, Kelly's an expert in that, and so and I know she's met with them, and we'll certainly make her available anytime they want to have further discussions on these.
Mike, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. There was a breakwater, like some riprap or something that was put out on North Reddington Beach back in the mid-90s. And if you look on Google Maps and aerial view, you can see it. And the beach is actually kind of built out there. So I don't know that it necessarily needs groins, but I think some sort of engineering countermeasure really needs to be.
Well, and I think that that's also a question of what the role of the county is on that. I mean, they're individual cities, and we don't necessarily. It's not our beach. So, are we going to be studying being responsible for those? I mean, many of the coastal communities, they have the same engineers that we have. When we were on one particular project down in Madeira Beach, and Kelly was working with them and found a very acceptable solution, and Representative Cheney got the state money. Well, the same engineer that if we had the money come to us, we would have hired the same engineer that they have under contract. And so they just took over the project and they ran it. And so it's part of that question's responsibility, and I'll have that discussion with them and we'll figure it out. We want to work with them. We have the same goals in mind.
Yeah, my comment is just, from a long-term perspective, we've got, a long-term budget for beach renourishment, and I think we just need to look for a longer-term solution. Otherwise, we're just throwing more money after the same thing, and it's like not paving that road, waiting too long to pave that road, and then it costs a lot more to do it. So.
Yeah. No, it's a great conversation. There'll be more to come. I wanted to make you a couple more things. Career Source is another issue. You've all got the memo on that, recommendation for consolidation under different scenarios that's going before that. It does concern me greatly, and I know it concerns a lot of people. In particular, the issue of how we link our job training into our economic development programs. The broader it gets, harder it is to get individualized attention. So I'm concerned. I talked to the CEO last night about that. I know people have written letters and things like that, but they're going to make a decision. But I just wanted to express the same concern. I didn't know if the commission wanted to go on record or not on this, but
I do think on Tuesday we need to be prepared to have a discussion about it and perhaps hear from our designated person on the Career Source Board, because if you might remember, we just went through this whole thing about separating the two boards about 5 years ago. And here we are 5 years later, and now they want to put it back to the way it was, which was not working. And I thought that the points that were made by the CEO in the letter that he sent to us were very well done. Yeah. And I think we need to have a discussion about it and go on the record. I mean, this is important to our citizens. Commissioner Eggers?
Yeah, I just really want to make sure that we clearly understand why it, quote, didn't work before, because if you remember, we also, I don't want to get too specific, but we had a person that was in charge of both organizations, which turned out to have some, we had some management issues with that person.
To say the least.
And so I'm not sure how much that attributed to the breakdown of the effectiveness of the group or not.
That's why we need to talk about it on Tuesday.
Because there's intrinsically there's some benefit to combining, but sometimes it doesn't work when you combine. And I just want to make sure we can split out what, so we clearly understand whether we get behind it or not. So,
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'll go more into detail on Tuesday rather than say it today and rehash it then, but I will share with you that when the organization that was contracted by the state came down and met with each county's career source board officers as well as their executive director. And we were together for about 4 hours, providing them with greater detail of how we were structured, why we felt like we had been able to make the inroads that we had been able to make, and what we thought mergers would look like and how they would either hinder or help our particular counties. Hillsborough was there, Pinellas was there, I was certainly there. Polk and Pasco counties were there. And during that time, and even in the one-on-one interviews, because I was also asked to participate in a one-on-one interview virtually with representatives out of Tallahassee, it was clear that there are intrinsic differences, not just in the way that Hillsborough is set up because of their location, but also Pinellas County. And so there have since been conversations with the executive director for Hillsborough's, with Steve Meyer, who is our executive director for Career Source. We just had a meeting yesterday virtually, and we will continue to have meetings because based on what our focus has been and where we're going and the positive inroads we've made when it comes to enhancing our job market, career training, secondary, primary education, it is very different from the focus and direction of Hillsborough. The thought right now is that the board would be split, so many members from Hillsborough, so many from Pinellas, and then that board decide how they want to move as far as leadership. Even that is getting, early on, a lot of infighting, if you will. So I'll provide
More to come on Tuesday.
I'll provide more detail on Tuesday, but, and I agree wholeheartedly with you as it relates to why it didn't work before. But it just was very disappointing when asked, and given the appearances of certain decisions, and then to find something totally different. The rationale that was provided to us during those sessions is totally different than the rationale that was actually given as to why they want to merge the two. And that's of concern as well.
And Madam Chair, if I can just add, and I don't want to get into too many specifics, but I think there is, a driving, issue behind it, and it's not a legislative issue or anything like that, but I think, it does have, some to do with the initial reform bill that passed a couple years ago. And the folks that were behind that who are no longer in the legislature. And you can look at where those folks represented and who they were. And I can tell you, because I was there, that Career Source was adamantly opposed to what was done then. And so I think that there may be some retribution of sorts now, so. And if that's the case, then
Retribution towards which part are you talking about?
the initial reform bills that were passed.
Oh,
So, because the legislature made them merge, because there were so many bad, local career source boards, but we didn't say, hey, this one needs to merge with this one needs to merge with this one. And so, where some of those members were located geographically in the state, I think now they're, maybe taking that into account with some of their recommendations.
duly noted. Okay. Anything else for the good of the order today? Okay, then with that said, we are adjourned, and thank you for all your great input and discussion. Good meeting.